Yes, y'all. Another Saturday night. Therefore, another Saturday night shoot the breeze. I want to thank everyone who is listening tonight, all of you who will be here on the panel and in the chat contributing to the discussion. Those of you who will come later on in the playback, I want to thank all of you in advance for your participation. So, to shoot the breeze, I like to come on here a little early before we officially start the show. And I'd like to tell you what we have in store tonight. We're going to answer the question, is Jared Ball right? Are black businesses not a way to solve problems for black people? We're going to look at the topic of black equals African, how some are under the assumption that blackness is race science and antagonistic to Africanity. We're going to look at a video that deals with celebrating 2024 years of white supremacy is stupid and ludicrous to black people. We'll check that out later. We're going to check out some Pan-Africanist spiritualists, in particular their music out of Guadeloupe. As Caribbean folks, we don't talk about Guadeloupe much. It rarely comes up. That's interesting. But they're not alone in that too. Places like Sabah, no one talks about Sabah. We have a Dr. Frances Cress Welsing prompt tonight. Her thoughts on the Pretendians, and usually I come with 5 and a possible. The possible tonight is about the programming of the black woman against her man by her mother. Did TV contribute to this thing? Okay, all that going on tonight. No, I don't have a new mic. Same old mic. All that's happening tonight. Shout out to the pro-black perspective who's out there in the chat. Shout out to the matron. The matron returned recently. So make sure to check out her channel. Check out her channel as soon as you can. And also check out Bakari. Bakari was on earlier. I heard it, Bakari. I heard it. Bakari was on earlier. Make sure to check him out as well. Trigger Happy 262 Plus is also out there. So shout out to him as well. So what we'll do now, we're going to start the show officially. And all are welcome. Click the link at the top of the pin at the top of the chat. Men, women, black men, black women, come on through, man. All are welcome. If you want to join the panel tonight, just click that link and join us tonight. What we'll do now is we'll start the show officially. And on the other side, I'll welcome the panelists and drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1. Please stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about black empowerment. Our show focuses on black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the pro-black perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the Revolutionary Matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Yes, y'all. Welcome back to another edition of the Shoot the Breeze segment of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. We are here every Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I want to thank all of you who are here. Yana B just joined the chat as well. My first panelist up here tonight, I believe, is only from the pro-black perspective. How are you doing?
Peace. How you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there. Thanks for coming through, as always.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, I guess we have other folks taking a little longer to arrive, but that's all good. Well, before I speak too fast, let's welcome in Black Steel. Black Steel, how are you this week?
I'm doing good, man. I'm ready to talk my shit.
I hear that. I appreciate you coming through. Let's also welcome in Buana. Buana, how are you this week?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Happy New Year to all the brothers on the panel. I hope this year is a year of power for everyone who is about to partake in this year. So, Happy New Year to everyone. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that word too. And thanks for being here as always. Without further topic number one tonight. Should be topic number one says, is Jared Ball right? Black businesses not a way to solve problems for black people. This came with a link. I do believe it's taking us to Twitter. Let me share my screen with you guys. Yeah, it's taking us to Twitter. So this is a tweet from Black Millionaires. The caption says, HBCU professor at Morgan State, Dr. Jared Ball, says supporting black businesses isn't going to solve the wealth gap or poverty because black businesses target black people and black people don't have any money. Let's hear it from Jared himself, I guess.
With supporting black business, it's just not going to solve the problem of poverty and inequality and wealth. I tried to deal with this a little bit, but the short version is black businesses target black people. Black people don't have any money. From 1992 to 2012, black people created 2 million plus businesses and the capture of the national sales revenue went down from a paltry 1% to like 0.3%. The point is that black people can't create businesses in the sectors of the economy that generate real wealth. Black businesses don't have enough to hire many people. They don't have benefits. They're not paying people. In fact, most black businesses pay people below the average national salary. There's nothing wrong with supporting black business. It's just not going to solve the problem of poverty and inequality and wealth. I tried to deal with this a little bit, but the short version is black businesses target black people. Black people don't have any money. From 1992 to 2012, black people created 2 million plus businesses and the capture of the national sales revenue went down from a paltry 1% to like 0.3%. The point is that black people can't create businesses in the sectors of the economy that generate real wealth. Black businesses don't have enough to hire many people. They don't have benefits. They're not paying people. In fact, most black businesses pay people below the average national salary. There's nothing wrong with supporting black business.
All right, so that's Jared Ball saying his thoughts behind it. I will say that I think one of the problems with us folks is when we hear someone say black people can't, we think they're saying no black person can, right? And that's not necessarily true. There's always a person who can, right? There's always a couple of people who can, but in mass per se, there's certain things I think what he's saying about certain business sectors being difficult for black folks to really I think there is some truth to that. In fact, there is truth to that. It is difficult. Is it impossible? I wouldn't say it's impossible. I'm sure some folks get by, but it's really, really difficult to do. Anyway, that's enough of me. Buana, what say you to this?
I think he's talking from his perspective and his lens. and he is speaking to what he understands, based off of academia and the statistics that he has read. If he feels as though black people don't have money, go ask Nike. Go ask Nike about black people not having any money, and let's check the remittances of what Nike gets in terms of buying just Air Jordans alone. What is the value of what, even in a year, let alone 5 years, let alone 10 years, how much remittances they would have gotten from Nike in the purchases of selling Air Jordan if they have no money, or Cavazier, or Popeye's chicken. Let's ask the corporations who sell these things whether black people have no money, and the remittances from the monies that they would have gotten from black people is something that resonates of insignificance. I would take it internationally, because in my country you have shacks, little chicken shacks with fried chicken and stuff like that. They able to employ hundreds of people. Bamboos, you familiar with that Koku? Bamboos, count plate, whatever. They have several businesses in this small city in Nassau, several locations, and they employ what, almost maybe 100 to 200 people in staff. These people are able to take care of their children, educational fees, medical fees. They hire many people, and that place started off as a shack. Who do they who is their primary audience? Black people. If you look at the numbers, the racket that they have going on in the Bahamas, the numbers industry, the gambling industry, small gambling industry, have been able to produce multi-millionaires, young black millionaires in our economy, and they are able to hire hundreds of people, hundreds of staff. I think even into the thousands of people right now. Where you had a shutdown of the economy and no money was flowing in, that service was being patronized heavily by Bahamians, and they have been able to enrich many Bahamians. So I don't know what business he's in fact talking about. I don't know what he's specifically looking at in terms of the remittances. I don't know exactly where he's coming from. Where he said black people have no money. And also, if you don't have black business, what is the alternative? Supporting white businesses? Because the people must work. The people must work. Where will they work? Where will they work? They can go and work the white establishments because they got to work somewhere. And for the white establishments who don't want to hire them, or you hire them into the white establishment and they discriminate, what do the black people do then? Do they just sit down, their hands folded in a so-called free economy? No, they start businesses and offering services to the greater community. They don't only have to serve black folks, they could serve anyone who was willing to pay for their services. He is restricting it to just primarily black folks. Because I'm sure there are many black businesses in America that offer their services not only to the black community, but other communities as well. Anyone who is able to, or who is willing to pay for their services. So I think that he is restricting what black businessmen are able to do, or businesses are able to do. He is specifically looking at the statistics where some black businesses they don't we don't many black people, business people, may not necessarily fill out an application where you could go to the registry and find out statistically what's happening in black businesses. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And what do you say to the immigrant population who go come to the Americas? Black people, from the Caribbean and Africa, and have created black businesses within the greater New York cities and other metropolitan areas, and they've been able to produce hundreds of thousands of dollars to send their children to school, to hire people, etc., etc., etc. Maybe it's not in a great number as the so-called white community, but is that that is our competition ultimately? Ultimately, we'll get there. We'll get there. You know what I mean? But I don't know where he's coming from with this. Me, uh, I am very leery when I hear academics or academicians talking in terms of black businesses, because the first question I have to ask him is whether he has run or operated a business before. I am very leery of when brothers then start talking in terms of black business and money and things like that, and he has never taken the risk to establish himself as a business person, or hadn't operated a business before, or even hired anyone. This brother probably only worked within academia, with his entire existence. He only worked and operated in academia, where you could speak from a microphone and tell children whatever your ideas of the world that you thinking. What I'm thinking is, have you ever put your money where your mouth is and actually gone out in the real world and paid, offered a service to people in exchange for money? I don't know. I don't know. I get leery when I hear academicians talk, man. These so-called professors and academics, because I want to know what your ties is to the greater world and the greater community, or are you just talking? Because we got a lot of brothers out here who just talking. But I'll leave it there, Koku, and let the other brothers go. I know they jumping at the bits.
Yeah, thank you for that point. I'll just say we have to practice some discernment in generally. I've noticed we have this thing. We don't trust the academics. We don't trust the Pookie and Ray Ray. Well, then who do we trust really and truly, right? I think it's about discernment. You have to measure out. In fact, what's the old saying among seamstress? You have to measure twice and cut once. I think we got to measure things twice and then make the cut before we just throw it away because it's an academic. It's someone who went to, whatever school or whatever. But I'll leave that there. Let's welcome in Brother Bakari this week. Bakari, how are you?
What's up? I'm great, man. What's going on? Buana, chat. I don't agree with this guy when he said black people don't black businesses target black people and black people don't have no money. Well, explain how all these Asians get rich. Explain the Korean hair care. Explain how we can spend $2-3 billion a year on Jordans. Explain that what it is, black people, we don't do our best at supporting one another. Just like you just said, got to have some type of discernment. What do we trust? Black people don't trust the black business. It's this old song I always listen to called "The Blind Leading the Blind." It was made in 1996. And part of that song is one of the things is that we can't afford to go to school even though we got the knowledge. Spend our money with the Japs and they send their kids to college. But here we are, hoes, dope dealers, and bums at the white man table still begging for crumbs. And that was 1996. But in 2023, it's the same thing. 2024 now, because what he said, who we spend our money with, we spend our money with other people. That's why I say we don't protect the neighborhood. We don't believe in protecting the neighborhood. That's why I always ask, who shot black? Who shot black? Obviously, we got money because we're steady shopping. That dude has a KW Down said the white vet said he got the white vet Cornell. Black people ain't got no money. But the same people that say black people ain't got no money, if you listen to them talk, they'll say something about the racial wealth gap, but then they'll turn around and talk about black people got $1.4 trillion in spending power. That's not power when you're spending it with other people. That you're being consumed, you're being eaten up because you're giving it all away. We don't believe black men gonna have black people, and I'm gonna say starting with the man, we're gonna have to want to control our neighborhoods. And I would still ask this question: who shot black this week? Who walked past the Arab, the East Indian, the Orientals? Who walked past those people or drove past those people to find a black-owned business? It's just that simple, in my estimation, anyway. And that's my estimation, and that's things that I see. That's why I do my best every time I'm going to be out. I'm promoting black businesses all the time because I'm tired of saying what we don't have and what we can't do and how other people is absolutely in control of us. No. We're going to have to look in the mirror and do a damn self-reflection. We're in control of who we spend our money with. We're in control if we have any type of respect for one another. We're in control if we're going to trust. We're in control if we're going to trust the black business. We're in control that if when we think about something black, can something positive hit your mind before something negative? We're in control of that. Nobody else. We're in control of who we spend our money with. We are. We're in control. I'm going to go to this black-owned restaurant without saying, well, I wonder how their service going to be. Well, I wonder how much this going to cost. But we don't do that when we go nowhere else. Well, I'm going shopping at this black-owned clothing store. Well, I wonder how their service going to be. Their clothes probably going to be high. Now they're a little bit too high. Well, they ain't getting rich off me. We're in control of who we spend our money with, and we're in control of what we do and how we do it. That's why I said I don't completely buy what he's saying. It fit the narrative of what we can and what we don't. and how we shouldn't. Don't try. It fit those narratives. But in all honesty, if black people didn't have money, everybody else wouldn't be in the black neighborhood getting rich. I hear the mic.
Appreciate that, Bakari. Let's hear from Black Steel. What say you, my friend?
Well, I did read the first book. I haven't read the second one yet, and he makes a very good argument as to what he means. So basically, the question, what he says about the myth of black buying power. Your buying power is calculated. You know how much money you have to spend after taxes, right? So after your taxes have been taken out, black people have whatever amount of money. The majority of black people are spending their money on housing, rent, mortgage, things like that. It's only a very small percentage of black people's money that goes towards luxuries. One thing about luxuries too, that you can save up for them. So you can put $20 here, $30 here, save enough money to buy luxuries. But the amount of money that black people spend on luxuries is really minuscule compared to what we spend on housing. So I think what Dr. Ball is saying is that there's nothing wrong with shopping with black businesses, and I shop with them and wherever I can find them. But the question is, are shopping at black businesses going to close the wealth gap? Are we going to be able to get our liberation through black businesses? And the answer is no, we're not. And that's for several reasons. But I do think the case he puts is very compelling. But I would say that spending power that we have, I mean, most of that goes towards our daily necessities. And I put in the chat that the average median income for just a black household, it's a household of black people, is barely over $52,000. That's on the low end for a household. That means multiple incomes for black people in America. That wealth gap is not only is it wide, but it's getting wider to where black people are projected to have zero wealth by the year 2050. That year is coming up pretty quickly. So when he says shopping at black isn't going to solve the problem, I don't think he's saying don't support black business, because I think we should. But we have to be realistic about what shopping or having black businesses can really do. Can we get our liberation? Can we solve the wealth gap? And what he suggests as an alternative is black people politically organizing, black political organization, something that was almost demonized. Whenever we talk about black organization, we talk about black radicalism, not black nationalism. I mean, these types of ideas are almost disregarded. Like, no, you don't need that. Just open up a bank, open up a credit union. And to be honest, it's more of black people need to go into more capitalism, right? But capitalism doesn't work for white people. Black capitalism only works for a small, that's why they call it the 1%. So I think that black people are being steered towards more capitalist ideas. And what he's saying is that that's not going to work to solve our condition. It's good to have black businesses. It's good to call. It's good to go to the store. And you'll see black people behind the store. And that's a good thing to have. But is it going to ultimately liberate our people? Are we going to close the wealth gap? The answer is no. And I believe that if you read his work, he makes a very compelling argument. I really think he lays it out really well. I can leave it there, but I would just say that what we have as far as black people coming together and organizing, I think we need to do that, but organize for political power, to control the apparatus of the state, create our own states, to organize, unite with our brothers and sisters across the diaspora. That is what threatens global white hegemony more than anything, more than opening our businesses. I mean, I think about it like this. Malcolm X went around the country calling white people devils for years. But the minute he went to Africa, he started speaking with heads of African states. He started talking about organizing and reaching across with other African people across the world. They had to get him out of there. That was enough for them. Okay, when Dr. King was okay for organizing with civil rights in this country, okay, yeah, whatever. You niggas want to sit at the same water fountain as us, that's cool. But when he started talking about international struggle, making the struggle of Africans in America connect with the struggle of Africans across the world, They got to get him out of here. Same thing with Patrice Lumumba. So I think that businesses are good, but it's not going to ultimately solve our problem. So I'll go ahead and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Black Steel. One of the things I noticed is not being touched on. When Ball said certain businesses Black folks can do, Buana kind of touched on it briefly, but there's a level of truth to that. But here's the problem with the truth of it. The truth of it is Ball is talking from this American, this solely American experience, Black American experience. And so he's talking about, like, if you're trying to get into the, what they call that again? If you're trying to get into the government contracting space and you're trying to get in there with a Black engineering firm, chances are you're going to have real trouble getting that business going. Chances are you're not going to get the Lockheed account. So in that concept, right, I think that's where his analysis is coming from. It's from this American experience. If you're trying to compete, on some fairness level with this white boy, you're going to have some problems. But like Bakari is saying in the chat, he says, stop worrying about white people. Now, that's where the analysis, in the sense of, if you work together, you communicate with one another, right? You do business with each other. It doesn't matter about the government contract so much. You can make money with your own people, etc. And I think that's where Ball is missing. But I'll be quiet and I'll let Oni give his thoughts. Only unmuted if you talk.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was trying to look up something, but yeah. See, this is one of the things. And I was saying in the chat, I don't know if Forecast saw it, but I was saying because I know that Forecast be getting on Brother Bakari about HBCUs. But here's my thing. So this man is he's mixed. And I'm not saying that because he looks mixed, because obviously that's true, but it's because his mother is, a European woman, right? My thing is this: why is it that in quote unquote Black spaces, right, these individuals, Black doesn't so that for these individuals are speaking for Black people and clearly speaking in a way that is counterproductive towards our development as a people, right? So as far as this is analysis correct, no, and that's what's the big problem with regard to Jared Ball, right? So obviously it doesn't apply on an international scale at all, right? It has no international scaling, but many individuals now I don't know. Now obviously one of the troubles with the quote unquote I gotta block the chat a little bit so I don't get too distracted, but one of the problems with the like the quote unquote leftist spaces, right, is that they have these wishes or these dreams of this outcome that nobody else is experiencing, right? Like essentially they want this, I don't know, I guess universal liberation for Black people that looks a certain way, right? That isn't another like that nobody else is really experiencing. Like white people are not experiencing this. No other group is experiencing the quote unquote liberation that we expect for Black people to have. And because nobody else is experiencing that sort of liberation, or because Black people aren't experiencing that liberation, something is dead on arrival, right? Whereas most people would say, well, white people are liberated in America, right? And even though you could find white homeless people or white people who make less money than Black people, because like we even just went over the income of the median income of Black people, and I guess the idea was it was a small number, right? And of course, a few years back, that was considered that was considered the median wealth of all Americans, right? And that was, but that's not good enough, you know. The point I would say is there's so many flaws in what he was saying. One, of course, like here in Brooklyn, there's this black vegan shop that doesn't only cater to black people, right? You have, and of course, I'm just talking about restaurants right now, but you have Tasty Patty in Jamaica, which is, a successful franchise. Then you have Golden Crust in America, which is another, Jamaican franchise, but it's still a large, like one of those. I wouldn't say, I mean, like a rival or a competitor to McDonald's or Popeyes or what have you, right? Which of course goes against the terminology that, black people don't have money or black businesses can't, become these massive successes, right? But then even if you go into, well, let's just be real. What if you were talking about things outside of the food industry, right? Now, I was just trying to look it up to see whether Ray J still has Raycon. But one thing I noticed one time I was watching some white boys play a video game or whatever, and then they put a commercial about Raycon. They were like, "Hey, get some Raycon headsets." And Raycon, apparently the business itself is manufacturing water filters and this and that, a whole slew of products, not just headsets. And of course you have Beats by Dre, which is also appearing in a whole bunch of things. And of course you say, hey, look, that's just a limited field of thing. But it doesn't even stop there. That's just two entertainers who were able to turn their money into certain industrial venues. Of course, you have Rihanna, who's another entertainer who has her own sort of industry. But then if you really get out of America, right, besides from Dangote in Nigeria, whatever, when I was in Tanzania, there was this one African, Azam, who pretty much manufactured almost everything in the country, right? Like, and I mean, like, even like to the small products of, like, let's say if you had baby powder or just water bottles or ice cream or this or that, whole shops of digital television receivers. This is like, the potential is there, but if you say, hey, you know what, this is not going to do it for us, then and you're encouraging people to essentially not look at it as a fruitful enterprise. The reality is that, you're hustling backwards, because the reason why these white boys can, which is why you could look at these white boys and say, look at the success they have. Because really what people were saying with regard to the income of 52,000, which is, in global terms, a huge amount of money, right? like a huge amount of money to have a year, right? But the only reason why Black Americans may say, oh, 52,000 is not a huge amount of money, to compare. And besides from, of course, if you want to say housing costs or whatever, the cost of living, right? You would compare it to whatever the white median income is. Okay, that's fine. But the reason why the white median income might be higher is because white people are doing the business that you're saying will not work for Black people. And I use the Raycon and the Dre example, to showcase that even if you make your money, or even if you organize your money in a particular environment, right, you could still go out and diversify it, and then eventually become that sizable force, which Jared Ball was just telling us we can't do. Saying, hey, look, we only do businesses to cater to Black people. That's not even remotely true. But even if that were true, even if that were true, you could take whatever amount of money is. You could go email Yona B, because she's the expert on online businesses, right? You can take whatever money that you're going to get from engaging with Black people or engaging with poor people, if you will, and then turn that towards a larger another enterprise, a different enterprise, and that's perfectly permissible in America. The other, I think there's only one other point to make in regards to, I can't, it just escapes me, but yeah, I mean, I think it is to say that people don't have money, and I think let me say, KW7 said about the blueprint for Black Power. You know, there was an example. One of my favorite examples inside of that book was of this church that had purely poor people in the congregation, right? And they collected their food stamps. They organized their food stamps together. Okay, they didn't. The tithes were not even paid with money; they were paid with food stamps. Organized the food stamps. Eventually, opened up a grocery store, and eventually opened up a grocery store, several grocery stores, farms, this, that, and so forth. So that's to say that even if you were poor, the fact is that even if you are poor, if you can organize yourself, or you choose to organize yourself, you can, as a people, elevate your condition. Now, as far as the concern of can you raise up everybody in America, nobody does. So it's kind of like I don't know, I don't want to say false flag, but it's kind of one of those red herrings, you know. Well, even if you uplift everybody in your community, give everybody in your community jobs and good groceries and good this and this, if you do all of that, right, doesn't mean anything, because in the town over, the blacks over there don't have what you have. Okay. But what we have to start telling our people is how to develop and raise up the people within their community on the ground that they're at. And if we don't do that, then of course, then it's going to be worse than the situation where nothing's getting done. And that's all I'll say.
In the chat, the matron says everyone picks their group and uplifts their selected group. Black Steel said entertainers and celebrities. Jesus Christ. Black Steel, want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're really talking about like the top 1% of black people starting businesses, who have access to capital and things that the average black person just simply does not. But Dr. Ball talked about in his book that the average black business has one employee, and that's the person who owns it. They don't come up with enough capital to pay insurance, to hire employees. I'm not saying having a black business is a bad thing, okay? But let's be honest about what black businesses can actually do, okay? Are they gonna close the wealth gap? No. Even black businesses on the continent, black companies overseas, they're not able to generate enough wealth strictly from black people. They can't compete as far as the money that these white corporations are building. So my point, and what Dr. Ball's point, is that we have to go about it a different way. He's not saying that we can't do it, but he's saying black capitalism is not going to work. Hell, white capitalism doesn't work. So the idea that you talking about these celebrities who create, that's evidence of black people able. No, it's not. I mean, think about it. When Jay-Z bought Tidal, right? Who was really funding that? Is it black people funding Tidal? No. Is it just white people buying Beats by Dre? If it was black people only buying those expensive, overpriced, crappy headphones, all right, do you think he'd be in business today? No, he would not.
But that disproves Jared Ball's statement that we don't give to, but we don't, that we, Jared Ball's the only person saying that black businesses do not give to other people. Aren't supported by other people. That's only Jared Ball saying that, but that's not true, and that's the whole reason why when you ask me, hey, is his assessment correct? No, it's not. It's analysis.
But who said? Okay, so would you consider, just because a black person owns it, is it a black business? How many white people? No, not at all. Just because he's on the face of the business doesn't mean he owns it. I'm pretty sure there's more white people.
Yeah, he does own it. But
I'm pretty sure there's more white people working at Beats by Dre than black people. I'm pretty sure I take that bet all day long.
Okay, but even so, it's still a black business, right?
Why? Because a black man's on the front cover is a black business?
No, because it's the black man who owns it.
If a black person owns it, if a black person owns the business, now that's the question that you ask Black Steel. You say if a black person owns it, does that make it a black business? That's the question that you ask.
If he owns it and employs none but white people, is it still a black business?
But it's still a black owned business. I understand your point, what you're trying to say, who they hired, because I know that Tidal nonsense with Jay-Z. All he had, and I showed one of my friends. I said, look, not one black person worked there. That shit was over in Sweden or Poland somewhere. Not one black person worked there. So they were showing his employees. I understand what you're saying, but was it black owned? Yeah. Go ahead. I just wanted to say that. I'm gonna let you finish
Yeah,
before I go ahead.
by it being black owned,
I was just trying to help you understand why the question was answered. Yes, it's a black owned business.
Okay, thank you. But
I
it being black owned, how does that benefit black people just because it's black
But
owned?
again, the thing is that you can pivot. You can
Hell no,
pivot
Oprah don't own no
whatever
black owned
resources-
business. Hell fuck no.
What you say?
Oh,
I'm responding. You want to be Oprah have a black owned business? Hell fuck no. Oprah don't have no black owned business. Oprah don't even fuck with black people
can
like
pivot
that.
with your resources. You know, so like for instance, take what you will about Oprah, and I don't agree with Oprah. You know, on 99. I mean, I don't even know Oprah. You know, from whatever, but she's the one who, if I'm not mistaken, she's the one who finances whatever movie that people want to watch or what have you. As to say that she can take her earnings and then do some sort of cultural activity that otherwise couldn't be done if she didn't have those earnings, right? But anyway, yeah, of course, black-owned business is a thing. You would love for mostly black employees, and I'm not saying. And again, you know, in other countries, that's more of a thing than here in America. But I want to address the whole celebrity, you know, dislike. I only use celebrities because they're the most recognizable names. But like we already pointed out, if you look in the Blueprint for Black Power, he uses numerous examples of successful successful individuals who are not celebrities, you know, but they are able to, you know, like one black person owns this, you know, like this hedge fund or some shit, or one black person owns this, or one black person owns that. You know, there's a lot of that. But you know, Ray J and Dre are just, you know, household names at this point, so it's just a little bit more easy to communicate.
So
can I say something right quick?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just on that commercial from Ray J.
Because see, this is the thing, right? To me, this is simple. And when it comes to talking, and trust me, I ain't telling nobody don't read. I believe in reading. But we need to get out and see what business is on. If you look on my channel, I interviewed this brother. He owned 4 washer terriers. So it's more than celebrities he owned 4 washer terriers. 2 of them is over that he owned, and everybody work for him is black. 2 of them is over in what they call Buckhead. And that's where the rich people, the celebrities, the stars, you know, wherever white folks, that's where black people want to go, right? So I can get past that. So I do. I don't agree with what this guy was saying. When you say black people don't have money, and when someone believes that a black business won't help black people, I think something is wrong with that. First, he said what you said, Black, so you say black people spend their money on rent and stuff like that. Well, white people don't spend their money on rent because they in y'all head rent free. Because we talking about building up black people. You ain't gonna out money these people. You are not gonna out money these people. They have a 500-year head start. Stop comparing yourself to them. Let's look at us and say, what are we gonna do? Stop as long as you compare. That's why our communities get run down. That's why our schools end up not being what they're supposed to be, because we compare ourselves to people who got a 500-year head start on you. And the only way you think you're doing good is if you are around them or if you are like them. How the hell can somebody say how can somebody tell me Phenomenal Seafood, where I was last night, is not helping the black community when everybody work in that spot is black? How can somebody tell me when I was at 1738? How can somebody tell me when I was at the Washateria? How can somebody tell me when I'm at these bookstores or when I go to the black house and ain't nobody working there but black, and they're in the community and helping the black community? If we stop trying to compare ourselves to people, and this ain't about a socialist capitalist thing, because white people do benefit from capitalism. If you don't think so, I can show you plenty of towns that was black that had businesses and they all shut down, and they took all those jobs to white places, to white cities, to white towns. This is not about socialism and capitalism. This is about black people trying to create some type of blackism. But we have to start getting out here. We have to get out here and find it and do it ourselves. Everything, that dude, Jared Ball, whatever the hell his name is, he ain't gonna write everything in the book because he don't know everything. Dr. Amos Wilson ain't gonna write everything in the book, and I love and respect Dr. Amos Wilson because he don't know everything. I can't talk about everything because I don't know everything, but I can say this: being out there in firsthand experience, in somebody saying have a business in your community ain't gonna help you. That's false premise because it helped the Arabs, it helped the East Indians, it helped the Orientals, and it helped anybody else that bring businesses into our community, and they sending their kids to college with our money. Then we turn and say what we don't have because you constantly comparing yourself to somebody who got a 500-year head start. Do we want to be better as a people, or are we trying to be like white folk?
But what about the other man's ice is colder phenomenon?
That is a very important.
Go ahead.
That is a very important statement, Koku. And let me address that in a minute, just for a minute, because I wanted to go. I wanted to make a few points too. Dr. Ball is on the socialist side of the game. I think that Black Steel would admit that. No problem. That's his politics. That's his politics. So he's gonna look from a socialist perspective in terms of how he perceives capitalism, which is not necessarily going to be an objective opinion. So that the analysis to me is already problematic because I can hear his bias. Yeah, right? But the other thing is too, the brother mentioned the fact that some brothers and but with the average amount of money income we make in our community is $52,000, whereas the white community may make $100,000. And my answer to that is it's not necessarily about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. Because people who make $100,000 a year, many of them are still broke. Go into their home and check their refrigerators out. It's empty. Some of them live in check. Many people wouldn't believe this, but many people who making those kinds of salaries live in check to check as well because they have poor buying and spending habits. And I feel like we do too as well, because a statement was made that a lot of our money is spent on housing. But I don't know if the brothers have ever been in a hood before and drove past a apartment complex or a rickety house where sitting outside that house is a $50,000 to $100,000 car. I don't know if you all ever experienced that before, because I have. I have. You see these things that shouldn't exist in communities where you have the houses are falling apart, but $100,000 sitting right outside of the building itself. And no one never necessarily questions that because it's not necessarily about how much you make; it's about how much you keep, and in turn, what you do with the finances of what you keep it. There is a reason that immigrants segue themselves as soon as they get into another man's country, whether it's in the Bahamas or the Americas, they segue themselves into the black community. Why? Because they know if they prop themselves in that community and start selling, within 10 years, they will be millionaires. And they can move, they will have the money, they'll have monies enough to move out of that community, move in another Chinese family, and then take that money and go do what they wish within a so-called open economy. And they will leave that house to another immigrant family coming in, and they'll bring them right to that same area, give them that business, and move on to another business. This is how the immigrants do it. And for us to say that no money exists within our community, how is it that we making Arabs are millionaires, the Chinese millionaires, and everybody else millionaires? So when the brothers talk about the white man ice is cold, that is exactly right. Because it seems like when some of us, not all of us, open up businesses, black people don't want to support that. They say, well, even though we may be selling the same product as the Asian man or the Indian man. How do I know this? Because uh, I've seen black women patronize Chinese shops in terms of buying black hair products. Where you see Shaniqua's selling the same hair products down the street and say, well, I don't want to support that. Why? Because the wigs are better than Shaniqua wigs? I don't know. So that is a valid statement when the brothers say, we dealing with the idea of the black man, the white man ice is colder. This is when I was begging Oni last week that he needs to write a book on trust, because our level of trust in terms of doing business with one another is extremely low. I don't know if we don't want to see each other win. And where we would have gotten that from, we have to disabuse ourselves of that mentality because it's almost like we don't want to see each other win. Where we get that from? Where we get that from? I'm begging, but I'll leave it there to let the other brothers go, man. I just thought I would get that out. Oh, by the way, lastly, I have a few academics in my family. I don't mean to sound cynical sometimes when I'm talking about them, but sometimes I feel like I feel like they don't live in the real world, and I could be completely wrong about it. But I don't mean to go be hard on academics, but I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there.
All right, so I'm gonna make this real quick, guys. I know we'll be on this topic for almost an hour. So again, I support black businesses, but I say, and going back to Dr. Ball's point, can black businesses close the racial wealth gap in America? No. Can having black businesses help liberate black people from our oppression? No. And that's the only point he's trying to say. I think shopping and owning and having commerce among your own people is a wonderful thing. I think that the point about white man's ice is cold is also a good point because sometimes we look at our own as inferior. But if every black person in America or even the world, I'm just saying, taking the United States, if we only work with black people in America, would that close the wealth gap that is not only exists but is widening? No, it would not do that. I don't think it's meant to. I think we're going to have to come up with another solution, which what Dr. Ball says, nationalism, organizing, Pan-Africanism. These are the tactics that I believe that we should use to change our condition, as opposed to just shopping, owning, controlling black people's wealth, which is not really that much in the scheme of things. You see somebody's car in that driveway, you think they didn't buy that car cash, they making payments on that car. That's what they're doing. You see somebody with enjoy, they put enjoys on a credit card, they're making payments on. A lot of people don't have no money. I'm sorry to tell you. I'll leave it there.
Coco, give me 1.5 minutes to talk to Black Steel right quick. Just 1.5. That's it. So let me ask you a couple questions, Black Steel. You said owning a black business ain't gonna close the racial wealth gap. I don't know why we concerned about how much money white folk got, but I'm gonna ask you this, right? So who's gonna close the gap? Whatever wealth we trying to get, how would it be? How would the gap be closed?
You ask me how it's gonna be closed?
Yeah, how to close the gap?
I don't think
because owning businesses and doing that ain't gonna.
Well, that's kind of his point. The point is that black people having the racial wealth gap, having business, isn't going to close it. I don't even think.
Okay, how do we close it?
So who cares?
I say, how do we close
so the
it?
question, but I guess the answer, who cares if we close it? The focus should be on
what the fuck.
Okay, but so why do you keep? Okay, so why do you keep mentioning racial wealth gap?
Because that's the. But don't. Hold on, wait. You asked me the question. That's what he says in his book. Can black businesses close the racial wealth gap? That's in his book. That's the point that many economists have said, that black businesses can close the racial wealth gap. He's saying it cannot. That's why I keep bringing it, because it's what he says in his book.
Okay, good. So now I got another question. Do those other people in the black community with businesses, do they make a lot of money inside the black communities, in the black neighborhoods? Do they make a lot of money from it?
I would tell you, I'm being honest. I don't think Chinese people is out here wealthy just off of black businesses alone. I think it helps, but if that was the only thing they had, they wouldn't be that wealthy. I'm being honest. You see these Chinese people working in stores 24 hours, the whole family working there. They're not getting that wealthy just off of black businesses alone. They have some additional income coming in. They could be having support from their home country as well. They have government grants. So it's not just them getting wealthy just off our businesses alone. I don't think so. No.
But do they help? So the point I'm making, if it helps, if it can help other people do whatever the hell they're doing with black money, how will it not help black people if black people use black money? Now I'm going to tell you something else he said that was absolutely wrong when he said black people don't target other people. That's not true. Now, for the most part, for most black businesses, it's not the fact that black people don't advertise to other people. It's that the people who y'all want to try talking about the wealth gap, those people, for the most part, don't want to spend money with a black business. It's not the fact that black people is not advertising to them. Now, I'm gonna get back to this wealth gap game, then I'm done. I don't even understand why folks so concerned about that, right? I know he said he wrote that in his book and whatever page it was on. Me personally, I would just black that out every time. I don't know why. You're not gonna out money these people. You're not gonna out. They got a 400-500 year head start unless you're ready to go to war. Which I know that's some most. Unless we ready to go to war and take back what's been taken from us, there's no need to mention the racial wealth gap.
That's kind
What
of his
should
point.
be mentioned, but okay. Oh, I got you. I got he can, but if when you mention the racial wealth gap, you're comparing yourself to somebody. Somebody got more than you, and you got less. So you're comparing yourself to the people who got more than you. And the people comparing yourself to white folks. And since they have more than you, I understand what the racial wealth gap is. So if you so in order to close that gap, you're gonna have to take what's been stolen. Unless we gonna say, you know what? I'm not gonna worry about no damn racial wealth gap. I'm gonna worry about us uplifting us. If we focus on us, this is something I wholeheartedly believe. We focus too much on white people when it comes to everything. If we focus on us, we can uplift us and we can build ourselves up. But we think our grocery store got to be like Publix or Kroger. No, our grocery store don't have to be like that. Our grocery store can be small. We don't have to do everything that they do. We don't have to be like them in order to better ourselves. That's the point I'm talking about when we talking about a racial wealth gap. What do we want? Do we want to be like them, or do we want to better ourselves and make stuff better for our future, our children, our youth? Or are we just trying to be like them? Sound like talking about the racial wealth gap. We want white people to give us some money so we can catch. If y'all give us this money, we can catch up with y'all in money. Now, they ain't gonna do that. So there's no need to talk because they ain't shit all these years. They ain't done it yet. They ain't gonna do that. So it's time to pull your pants up, self-reflection, and say, what are we gonna do to make our situation better?
Appreciate that, Bakari. Good discussion, but for time's sake, we do got to move on. Shout out to everyone who joined. Sister Raw is out there. Yana B came through. Of course, Bakari is here. KW Don 7 is out there. So I appreciate all of you guys for coming through tonight. Make sure hit the like button, share the episode to your socials as well, right? Should be topic number 2 tonight. It says Black equals African. Some are under the assumption that Blackness is race science and antagonistic to Africanity. How does one respond to linguistic, cosmological, or cultural evidence that says otherwise? This came with a few attachments. So first one is a tweet from toughlove.wav. His caption is to some of what Great House said. So let me read what Great House says. So it's a retweet. Great House says whiteness is predicated on the oppression of non-whites. So when you demand that they stop oppressing you, you're destroying their identity and culture. That's genocide. Tough Love Wav, who retweeted this, says correct. Dialectical thinking would then lead us to understand Blackness is predicted on being the eternal property of whiteness. So are we African or are we property? Which identity has more unifying potential? This also comes with a link to a Camgiverse video, 2 Camgiverse videos. So we'll watch them in order and then we'll have a discussion.
As a Black person, you understand? Yeah. And when I say Black person, basically we're looking at a translation of our very first identity. You can go back over 4,200 years to find us calling ourselves Black people. But the term at that time was Kim for one single Black man, and Kemet for one single Black woman, and then Kemetiu for Black people plural. And when you go to the pyramid text of Nesu Biti Pepi, this is exactly where you'll find that it says that you stand like the Apis bull at the forefront of the Kemetiu, right? The Apis bull was a black bull that had certain sacred markings on it, and it said that you're like that black bull in front of all the other black people, right? Kemetiu. And at the same time, you had individuals who are calling themselves Hepi Kim, Hepi the Black, and Henenit Kim, Henenit the Black. And even the origin of the word chemistry, it comes from that exact same word in Medu Neter, the very first writing system ever, Kim, and it means that which is black. And the symbol that was used to write it was a piece of burnt charcoal. And basically what it was referring to is the chemical reaction that takes place when something catches fire. So an unburnt piece of wood versus a burnt piece of wood, there's been some type of chemical reaction. But the reason why we even say chemical in chemistry and anything that has chem in it is because of that original word, which translates to black.
So the original word is coming, and it was translated into black. So basically, we are not blacks; we are coming.
Chem is the best word that we should use, and that's why all the time that we're trying to get people to understand what our languages are saying, because as long as we're translating into the languages of our colonial enemies, you know, we're going to be behind the 8 ball, so to speak.
Wow, it's another blow, because I think most of us, or most of viewers, don't even know I don't know. I have no idea about that. Black has another name of Kemet or something like that. I only know that black. And if I say it in the tree, I will say Obibini. Yeah, Obibini. So black, we are saying black. The only thing sometimes I think about it, but I say black. I am not black. That one, I do think about it very much all the time, but I haven't had any opportunity to ask anyone. And today I'm going to ask you. I'm not black, because if I say black, I will say my trousers is black. This one I have here is black. This phone, the cover here is black. But if you put it on my body, I'm not black. But they call me black. And I have accepted, and I also call my brothers black. And if I'm outside the country, I say black people. I say black man. I'm a black man. Why?
So first off, it's because we're translating the initial concept of Kim and Kemet, right, which translates as black men and black women. But more so, when we look at our objective in life is to become like Usir. Usir is the first archetype of the death and resurrection of the Savior. And once we pass on, then we become, what would happen is that our name would be prefixed with Usir. So if your name is Kwame, you'll become Usir Kwame, right? I'll become Usir or Badele, Usir, so forth and so on. And basically Usir, the Mrane, this is like the praise name of Usir, was Kem Ur, the great black.
Kem Ur, yeah.
Kem Ur, the great black. And basically the idea is that once you strive towards the 42...
I don't want to stop you there. So the Ua is the great.
Great.
Okay.
Right.
Kem,
and then the Kem is the black.
So Kem Ua, the great black.
Exactly. So as far as that goes, basically the idea is that everyone is striving to eventually become like Usir, who's depicted as blacker than 1,000 midnights. You understand? So once you go through the dua and you say the 42 declarations of innocence that says, I have not stolen, I have not worked evil, I have not cursed the ruler, I have not done. So these are the 42 declarations of innocence, of which, you know, in the Bible, they could only do 10. So then they did it as thou shalt not. But that's where they actually plagiarized it from in the first place. It's from the 42 declarations. You understand? So you can find that in the Peret Imheru, all 42 of them. And you'll find the different versions, because each person would come up with the 42 things that they have not done specific to them. So if you read the 42 declarations of Imahu Ani, it's going to be different from that of Imahu Hunefer. It's going to be different from that of Nu, Imahu Nu. So each person says the 42 things that they have not done. And those are the things that qualify them in order to become Usir this and Usir that. You understand? So their heart is actually weighed on the scale of Ma'at. So with this scale, is that if you are speaking truthfully, then your heart will be lighter than an ostrich feather. There's some ostriches down here. I don't know if you saw them on the way coming. If you speak truthfully, then your heart will be lighter than an ostrich feather. But if you're lying and you say, I have not done this, every single time you lie, every single
Your
time.
heart become
And then
heavy.
Amit would be the one who would actually, devour that heart, right? So all of this idea of judgment day, judgment after death,
Yeah.
that's where all of these other religions plagiarized. That's where they stole
Yeah.
that idea from, because all of these things you can find them in the pyramid text over 4,000 years ago, right? Starting with the pyramid text of Nesubiti Wenis. You can go to the pyramid text of Nesubiti Teti and see the same thing. You can go to that of Nesubiti Pepi Merimre. You can go to all of these different pyramid texts and actually read where that idea of Judgment Day comes from, and read where they got the original 10 Commandments from, where they got the idea of death and resurrection of the Savior from. All of those are carved in stone, and you can go and see them to this day. But you have to even know that they exist before you can say, well, now let me go and read them. But for those who are interested, you can read them in translation. If you just type in pyramid text online, you'll be able to read all of them from beginning to end. And then you'll see where that death and resurrection of the Savior comes from. You can see where all of those concepts come from. But this is the origin of that idea of blackness, right? What we're translating as blackness, which is really coming from the word Kim. Again, that first over 4,200 years in those exact same pyramid texts that we're talking about is where you said Kemetiu. We were referring to all the people as Kemetiu. And then you also go to Sarah, Pepi, and then you'll also see individuals who, during his reign, you'll find people who are calling themselves Kem this and Kem that. Females calling themselves Kemet this and Kemet that. You understand? So that's the origin.
Kemet this, let me say, black this.
So exactly. So as we are conceptualizing ourselves as Kem and Kemet, which is translated as black man, black woman.
Black woman.
And then you can find that, so that's in classical times, over 4,000 years ago. But then in contemporary times, you can find the same thing, because when you say Obibini, the BB inside of that translates to the blackness. So when you say Jabidie, that B, so that Jabidie, the B inside of it is coming from the black. When you say Abibidro, that BB inside of that is coming from the black. We say Kwaibibrim, that's again coming to the blackness of that space. You understand? So all of those ideas are related to blackness. Now, if you go to the Songhai language spoken in Mali, you have modern day Mali, right? So the classical kingdoms, you had Ouagadougou, which people incorrectly call Ghana. That's where this nation is named incorrectly, because the original nation's name was Ouagadougou. Ouagadougou, right? It translates to land of herds. They have herds of cattle.
But we have Ouagadougou.
So that's different, and it's a different language, right? So that's Morde language. It sounds similar, but it's a different language. That's Morde language, on the Sarakole, of Soninke, right? So you had Ouagadougou, that was the original name. But you had an Arab named Al-Khwarizmi, who actually never traveled there, but in his documentation, he wrote about the ruler, who was known as Ghana. So it's not a G sound either. People in the country called Ghana, they actually can't even pronounce it right. But the GH is a R sound. R. And if you go to places where they have that in the language, they actually pronounce it correctly. So you go to Egypt, they'll say, oh, you're coming from Ghana. But here, because you don't have it in your language now anymore, now when people say it, they just replace it with a G. Ghana.
So
Ghana,
it's Hana. Hana. So
Exactly.
what that word is it what that alphabet? Is it which alphabet?
It would be an X. So if you go to Wolof, they have that sound, right? Wolof spoken in Senegal. That's where you get your Jollof rice come. Right?
Yeah.
So when they say Jollof, that's the Jollof Empire, right? The classical empire around those times. So I'm coming to a point. So you have Ouagadougou, you had Nyani, and Nyani is the original name for what they now call Mali.
Nyani.
Right, Nyani, right? And that's still located in modern day Guinea Conakry, right? That was the capital, and then that's what by extension became the name of the nation. But people call it Mali because those people were Malinke people. And then you come to Gao, right? Songhai Empire. So in the Songhai language, they have the exact same word Bibi, and it translates to black, right, in English. And not only that, anytime they want to say something is powerful, they use that word as the adjective to mean powerful. So they say Wanye Bibi, that means the black sun. Then they're looking at the sun, they know it's not the color black, but that's the very way that you say that the sun is powerful right now. When they want to say that it's pure water, right? This water is pure. They're looking at the water and they know it's not the color of your phone or your trousers, but they'll say Hari Bibi. I know Hari Bibi, give me the black water. And that means the most pure water that you can conceive of. When they want to say that the ground is fertile, they'll say Sadisa Bibi. and that means the black soil. So no matter what the color of the soil is, if it is asasidre or asasibidie, then they will say that this is the black soil, right? So basically, when you call yourself black, the idea is that you're powerful, that you're pure, that you're fertile. So all of those concepts are, ensconced. They're inherent in the concept of blackness. Now, so that's the Songha language. When you look at Yoruba, we also call ourselves what translates into English as black people, right? So we call ourselves Adulawa. Oh, it's an O sound. So it comes from dudu, which is the word for black, ni inside of our color, and then the a prefix makes it a human being. So Adulawa is the one who is black in color. And the way we conceive of this land that we're on right now is Ile, Adulawa, the land of those who are black in color. If you go to the Bambara language called Bamanakan, which is spoken in modern day country of Mali, and again, we know that Mali is coming from Malinke people. The original was Nyani. But if you go there, you'll find that in the language of Bamanakan, they say Farafin, which translates into English as a black person.
Farafin.
And then the way that we refer to this land is Farafina, which is land of black people. It comes from La, which is a locative, right? So when you want to deal with location, you add La to the end of it, then it becomes Farafin La. But then because of what's called homoorganic nasal assimilation, the La becomes an N and becomes Farafina. So Farafina is the land of black people. Then if you go to Igbo, the Igbo language in southeastern Nigeria.
This is interesting. Sorry, guys.
Right? Good.
Yeah.
So you have Ndicioji.
Ndcoj.
Ndicioji, and it translates to black people. And the way that they conceive of this land is Allah Ndicioji, the land, literally the land of the black heads, but by extension saying black people, right? If you go to Senegal, they have what's called Nit Kunyul, which is a black person. Nit is human being. It's the same as the ni at the end of chi when you say Obibini, Asantini, Ghana ni. Their nit, it refers to human being, and Yoruba's and ni. So all of that ni.
So basically all of them are the same.
They're coming from the original source language. They're all, you could think of it as a river, and then as a river it gets towards a delta, it breaks off into various rivulets, right? That's what's going on. It's ultimately one river, but then you have different branches of the river. Now, what our colonial enemies do is they tell us to focus on the teeny tiny branch instead of focus on the fact that it's all one body of water. You understand? So, again, if you look at that, you have Real Nit Kunyul, that's the land of those who are black. Real is land. Nit is human being. Ku is the genitive, the indirect genitive expressing possession. And then Nyul is black, right? What we translate into English as black. If you go to Kikongo, this is now spoken in Congo, of course, where else? Then you have Ndombe, and Ndombe is a word for black, right? When you talk about a single black person, Ndombe. And then if you're talking plural, Bandombe, so it's black people, it translates to black people. Then if you want to refer to this continent that we're on right now, we'll call it Nsia Bandombe, which is the land of black people.
Nsia Bandombe. In Congo's language. Is it Zaire, Congo Zaire? Or
it's what used to be called Zaire, DRC,
Congo,
right? But then even if you go to non-African languages, you have languages like Arabic. They'll say Bilad as-Sudan, which is like the land of the black people. So where we get Sudan and South Sudan is coming from the Arabic language. So these Arabs who are invaders onto the continent in their own language are saying that this is the land of black people. They ask, well, then what's your Arab?
So what are you doing here? Because
your language itself is telling you that this land is land for black people. If you go to the Greek language, this is where they get ithi, ops, where the ithi is referring to burnt, and then ops is literally eyes, but by extension face is like chi, ani, anim. And Yoruba Oju is literally eyes, but Oju is also by extension face. So that's where you get, land of those of the burnt face, right? So that's where you get Ethiopia coming from. And then if you look even at Latin, right? So we looked at Arabic, Greek. Then if you look at Latin, Niger, this is where you get the origin of Negro, and all the other terms are coming from this word which relates to blackness. And that's also where you get Niger, Nigeria, all of those other terms are coming from that as well.
And all those,
so all of those that have the N-I-G, N-E-G-R-O, all of those are coming from the exact same source. So
Shout out to Obadale Campbell, by the way. His dad passed away, I want to say on New Year's or something like that, within this last week. So shout out to him. There's one more attachment to this prompt. This is about this is about a 4-minute video. We'll watch it and then we'll discuss all of it afterwards.
Once upon a time, there was nothing but darkness and water. This was the first stage of creation, and the water was called Noon. From the water of Noon, a bright light appeared. This was the first living being, and his name was Amun-Ra. He was also made of dark matter and dark energy, which are the building blocks of everything. He had the power to change himself and create new things. He was called Khepera, the principle of change. Amun-Ra created 2 children, Shu and Tefnut. Shu was the air, and Tefnut was the water. They were the first elements of nature. Together, they created the sky and the earth and filled them with stars, planets, and moons. One of these planets was our home, Earth. Amun-Ra also created a special substance called Kem-Ur, which means the perfect black. This was also called melanin, and it was the gateway from non-life to life. It was a fundamental part of all living things, and it gave them color, strength, and intelligence. Amun-Ra used Kem-Ur to create the first animals and plants on Earth. But Amun-Ra was not satisfied. He wanted to create beings that could think, speak, and worship him. So he asked one of his children, Khnum, to help him. Khnum was a god who could shape things with his hands. He took some black soil from the earth and put it on a potter's wheel. He spun the wheel and molded the soil into the shape of a human. He breathed life into it, and the first human was born. He was black, like the soil and the Kem-Ur. Khnum repeated this process and created many more humans. He gave them different features, languages, and cultures. But they were all black and beautiful. These humans were the ancestors of all the people on Earth. They called themselves Kamtiu, which means the black people. They lived in a land called Kemet, which means the black land. They loved Amun-Ra and his children, and they built temples, pyramids, and statues to honor them. They also learned many things from them, such as writing, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and art. They became the most advanced civilization in the world, and they spread their knowledge and culture to other lands. The Komtu were proud of their blackness, and they celebrated it in many ways. They used different names to refer to themselves and their land, depending on their language and region. For example, some of them called themselves Obibini, Farafin, Ndombe, Adulawo, Ndi Oji, Nitkunul, and Burnesen. They called their land Abibiman, Farafinna, Nsi Yabandombe, Ile Adulawo, Alandi Isioji, Irayu Nitkunul, or Cha Burnesen. But they all meant the same thing, the black people and the black land. The Kumtu were happy and prosperous, and they lived in harmony with nature and each other. They were the children of Amun-Ra, the first light and the first life. They were the heirs of Khepera, the principle of change. They were the carriers of Kem-Ur, the perfect black. They were the makers of history, the creators of civilization. They were the Kumtu, the black people, and they lived happily ever after.
Yes, indeed. Shoot the breeze topic number 2. Black equals African. Some are under the assumption that blackness is race science and antagonistic to Africanity? How does one respond to linguistic, cosmological, or cultural evidence that says otherwise? So let's get right into it. Let me mix it up a little bit. Let me go straight to Oni. Oni, what say you on this?
Oh yeah. That last one was fire. I can fire says, "What's up? What's good? What's good?" For I can fire. But yeah, that last one was fire. But yeah, I mean, obviously from the first image, what was it? Yeah, dialectical and just regular. It sounds like a socialist. I mean, it was obviously a socialist, but they were doing that more argument. I don't know if you guys ever met those Moors where they're like, "Hey man, black is what's your nationality?" type thing, and if you don't name a nationality, they're like, "Oh, you're this, that, so on and so forth." Um, but yeah, no, blackness as opposed to whiteness is an interesting concept. But as Abadede Cambone pointed out, uh, blackness preceded uh, America as a nation. So, when you get out of the American mindset, you begin to see things different. I think I think regarding the whole whether you're black or not in Africa, I think that's just a like a lost in translation kind of thing. There's a lot of things lost in translation because there are Europeans in Africa. You know what I mean? there are Asians in Africa, Indians, and so on and so forth. There was I just saw somebody. I don't know. I think Coco might have linked it, but somebody was poking fun at how Indians make food in Kenya or something like that. It was funny, but yeah, they know that they're not Indian. They know that they're not European. They know that they're African. Um, it's only I think the concept of racial antagonism that Americans pretend to have when they're really or even not just racial antagonism but kind of like what Bakari was saying about white people just living rent free in your head. Like that's not necessarily going to be, or like white people judge it like just basically the basis of everything you do, you know, um, like that's not going to be present in Africa. Like that's a mindset that's drilled into you through America. Black as inferior to white. That's a mindset drilled into you through America, but it's not like that's not a thing for people in Africa. Like when you're in Africa, you are like for the most part 9 times out of 10 surrounded by black people, and you'll only see black people unless you're going to the main market or you're going to a foreigner's market, but it's kind of like uh I don't know what's the best comparison, but like I don't know the best comparison in America, but if you somehow were in America and you just only existed in the hood, like completely, like just within the internality of the hood, and you like didn't work or you didn't do anything else, like you collected your whatever, then maybe possibly you'll never engage with with a black person, um but generally like in Africa that's pretty normal, like unless you go to the market, so you're not going to
I
be
know
like,
how to explain that.
sorry.
What's happening pro black perspective? I know how to explain that. I'm Jamaican, so it's black dominated. So it's like
Yeah, I can. You can't just come up and jump in like that. So hold tight for a second. Only finish your thought, and then I'll introduce Icon to the panel.
Yeah. All right. So yeah. Okay. I can. What's up? What's up? But yeah. So yeah. I mean, like, their identity is not going to be, like, oh yeah, I'm black. Like I'm just black. That's me. That's me. Because at some point you gotta say to yourself, well, if everybody's black, then what more am I? Kind of like, you know, like on a fundamental level, we all distinguish between men and women. You know what I mean? On a fundamental level, we all distinguish on our particular politics or our particular ideologies. Like after you're black, then what are you? And I think that's more so what people are talking about. Whereas in America, there is this feeling that you should be first, like black first. But that's not going to be something that's going to weigh on. That's not going to be the same thing on you if you're in a black environment. Kind of like what Ike was saying about being in Jamaica. You could be Jamaican first, but in Jamaica, if there's nobody who isn't Jamaican, right, then being Jamaican first isn't really like that dynamic, that interesting. Like if your whole identity in Jamaica is you're a Jamaican, okay, you know what I mean? like you're not distinguishing yourself. So
Yeah, can I chip in? Yeah. Well, go
yeah,
ahead.
we got it was just the yeah. So anyway, but just a second. So let me just finish. I'll try to land right now, man. All right.
That's good.
So yeah, some are under the impression that black. Yeah, so I think that was just ridiculous. But I agree with. I think the brother Obadale Campon put a good presentation in regards to how think. But I think for the most part, we all kind of know that African people identify as black, particularly when it really matters. Which is like if the foreigner is there, then it's like, oh, okay, that foreigner is white and I'm black. But that's all I can say. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I can in the future allow me to introduce you to the panel and whatnot. We have a certain order
Yeah.
here.
Hold on, Mr. Bahamas. Y'all sometimes too strict, bro. Y'all need to lighten up a little bit. If you
I
may,
I
lighten
can
up a little bit, man. We are grown men. We can chip in once or
now I can I'm gonna mute your mic. Next step is I'm gonna take you off the panel. I appreciate you coming through, but you can't tell me how to run my affairs. You could talk about how you run your affairs, right? The way I
yeah,
run
but
my affairs is how I run my affairs. All right.
yeah.
So
So, but you can't stop me from talking. If I ain't disrespecting you.
either you respect the panel, how things are run, or you don't, but you're not gonna be here disrespectful. You feel me? So now I can fire. You could go ahead and add the point you wanted to add to what Oni
Am
was
I
saying about.
disrespecting you? Am I disrespecting you, bro? I said something. I disrespect you?
I
Why
can.
are you muting my mic as if you disciplining me? Why would
All right, I'm done with that. Let's go to Black Steel next.
All right. So, to me, listening to all of those things, and I gotta say, um, the idea that blackness is antagonist African, I don't get that. I've never understood that type of rhetoric, honestly. Uh, to me, I feel like I'm okay with being black, and we have to acknowledge that. And to me, I don't think it mean you can be to be black is not to be African. I think it's we acknowledge that Africans are black. Black people are Africans. Now, I will say this: melanin is the default for the people of the world. But just so you could be dark skinned, not necessarily African, but we understand that to be African is essentially to be black. And once I understood that, I use black African interchangeably. To me, I think that's worked in the past. I think we continue to do that. But yeah, I don't really see that like that it's antagonistic to Africanity. I think it's quite a stretch. But also the idea of whiteness, which was the creation of the European, because before they were just European, they were French, they were Italian, they were German. Crossing the Atlantic, they become white. Just to create a whole white identity as opposition to the other people of the world. But I don't think that puts blackness in terms of property or slaves the way the other guy was happening. That's kind of a stretch to me. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Black Steel. Buona, what say you?
Yeah, what I would say is I was having a conversation a couple of weeks ago with Brother Bakari, and And our conversation led to us, me stating to him, where as a soldier, he sees solutions from a soldier's perspective. So any solution he have gonna involve a bullet, because ultimately, his training is that of a soldier. Even though he still could extend the discussion on to business matters and other matters. His solution is is always is always from a perspective of almost like a military kind of one, a soldier kind of one. Dr. Camborne is a linguist. So Dr. Camborne sees the world in terms of language, the science of language. So the solutions to the problems that befall us black people, it seems sometimes, is less we need to name ourselves correctly. Call ourselves committee you and all these other things because this is what how we originally defined ourselves in the world. So my question is, okay, now that we have defined ourselves as committee you or Kemet people or African people from this part, okay, now what? Now what? Because sometimes when I hear these discussions, it goes back to a historical one, what we were doing way back when, way back when. And I don't have a problem with the historians in their perspective and how they perceive the world and how they seek to adjoin the languages or linguistics being important to the whole historical discussion. Sometimes, though, I would like to have a conversation on where we are and where we are going from a futurist. I kind of like I look at things in regards to a future kind of perspective. And I know the history is important and the past is important, but I like to look in terms of where I'm directed and what trajectory am I currently on. And sometimes when we get into these historical discussions, we don't talk in terms of where we are now, what we should be doing, and what is our trajectory, where are we going into the future. It's always this historical discussion of listen to the language, were, did this, way back when. You know what I mean? I understand that and I respect the people for what they did back then, but what are we currently doing right now? And where's the trajectory? I would be more interested, me personally, in knowing how Dr. Camborne got set up in Ghana, how he set up the Abibi Toomey website, how he's able to pitch that narrative and grow that thing where he is able to sustain himself and his family outside of his academic pay, the University of Ghana being able to fund him, how he's able to go about doing it. Of course, he's learned languages. And he's learned languages to agree where he's created a client base and people are willing to learn African languages. Where is he going to eventually go with that? Where is he going to go with that? Where is this conversation going? Because like I say, linguistics is important. Uh, Having a military approach is important, but there are other aspects of the black world and the problems that befall in the black world we must solve. And I feel like sometimes we should get out of these formal arrangements because even though he's a classical or he's a trained linguist, there are some matters and issues that I feel that he can address and speak to that'll improve the situation with us here currently in the Western world and on the continent itself. And in trying to influence the trajectory of black people and where we're trying to go. Because like I say, the historical discussion is historical. It's historical. What is the trajectory? Where we going? And sometimes I get a little bit frustrated in hearing these kinds of discussions because I feel like it's too pastoristic. It's too historical. It's too historical. But I'll leave it there, just to be brief.
Appreciate that, Buana. Does anyone else have any last thoughts they want to add to this conversation, to this topic? All right, that's fine. That allows us to move on to Shooter Breeze topic number 3. Shooter Breeze topic number 3 tonight says celebrating 2024 years of white supremacy is stupid and ludicrous for black people. What do y'all think? Well, this came with a link, so save your thoughts until we've watched it, and then we will discuss.
My
LIVESTREAM West. If you're watching this channel for the first time, you are highly, highly welcome. This is a place for separate the facts from the fiction, the science from the superstitions, and the concepts from the misconceptions about African spirituality. Today, some people are saying that it is the first of 2024, the new year. And so many people, they are celebrating around the world that they have seen another year, that this is a new year, 2024, 1st January. And I want us to talk about today, what are we actually celebrating? Is this actually a new year? Because some of our people, we are not really understanding what is going on. Some people don't think well, or they lack common sense. When we say 2024, what does this mean? Some people trying to say that the world is just 2,000 years old. If they are saying this, then this is not true. Okay, what are we actually celebrating? Why is the world 2024 years old? Today, I want to prove that this very date is very wrong, and it's a very big lie. In fact, it's a lie from the pit of the Caucasian hell, and it is something that Caucasians have been able to use to hoodwink the whole world and to put over the eyes of many people, especially African people, to believe that the world is actually 2,000 years old, and this is a very big lie. And today I want to prove this. When we say we are celebrating a new year, Happy New Year, people are celebrating, blasting fireworks all over the world. You watch CNN, Al Jazeera, BBC, and all their channel. You would think that it is a general thing, that is what they are saying is a true thing. But the scientists, real people that actually deal with facts and figures, we tell you that the world is over 4 billion, if not 5 billion years old. In fact, the Earth is so old, nobody knows the real age of this Earth, but we know that it's very, very old. And it's more than 5 billion years old. So if this Earth is 5 billion years old, according to real pragmatic science, hard facts, why are we celebrating 2024 years as the age of the Earth? Or what does this mean actually? Real people that have real knowledge will tell you that the world here is over 4 billion years with a lot of scientific evidence and facts. But yet you see some people celebrating 2024 years. Of who? Of what? What are we actually celebrating? And where is this coming from? If you find out that we trace this calendar of these 2024 years, that these people are putting on ink and paper and everywhere that the world is 2024 years, you find out that this originated from Europe, from the Caucasian race once again, the race of liars, the evil cancer people. We trace this originally to the Roman Empire. This origin of this 2024 years that you are celebrating today is not an African age, okay? We have our own in Africa. We have our own calendar. This is not our calendar of how old the Earth is, okay? Chinese people have their own calendar, which is more authentic than this Caucasian calendar. Even Thailand have their own, Japanese have their own. Every indigenous people have their own calendar. What we're using now is Christian calendar, the Georgian calendar. The people that have made the image of a white man God for the whole world. The people that is destroying the world. The people that is causing all the problem in the world, trying to enslave and brainwash mankind. This is a calendar that they are using. And when you follow this calendar, it brings a lot of imbalance to your life. It brings a lot of ignorance, a lot of backwardness to your life, because you cannot live in harmony with the Earth. So this calendar is a very poisonous thing that they have been able to infiltrate into our culture and our psychic. So this is why I want to analyze this calendar. The origin of this 2024 Georgian calendar can be traced to the origin of the Roman Empire, to a very particular man. We know when he started. The name of this man is Octavia Augustus. That is the name of this man that started this whole thing. He was a pure Caucasian. This is the first Caucasian man that ever sat on an African throne, of the throne of ancient Kemet. He sat on this throne after he defeated the so-called mulatto queen Cleopatra. Cleopatra was half Greek, half African. Okay, this is during the reign of the Ptolemies, during the when ancient Kemet was under the rulership of this this Greek dynasty. This is when ancient Kemet has fallen into the hands of Greek invaders. Then we now have the Ptolemaic, the last dynasty to rule before the Caucasians step in, and then they were later taken over from them by the Arabs, which are still there today. So the first Caucasian man that sat on the Kemetic throne, his name was Octavia Augustus. Okay, he did this on the year 26 BC when he took over, when he defeated Cleopatra, and he also tried to run into Kush, the Kushite of modern Sudan. He tried to take over Kush, but he was not able to succeed. He was beaten by the queen that time, the Queen Amenerias. He could not defeat her. She beat him, and he ran back into Rome. Then he founded the Roman Empire in 27 BCE. That was the day Roman Empire started their reign in Europe, 27 BC, and it was started by this. And this is where the man started his counting of their own calendar. He changed many things, and he changed the year of the original year that the world knew. He changed it to their own Roman calendar, and this is what the world have been using since then. So what you are celebrating is the beginning of the reign of the Roman Empire since the year 2026 BCE. Okay, you are celebrating the beginning of the reign of white supremacy. This is what we are celebrating. When you say 1st January 2024, you are celebrating the reign of white supremacy for the last 2,000 years. You are not celebrating the birth of the earth. Okay, you are celebrating white supremacy. We have our own African calendar. Our Kemetic calendar started from the day Pharaoh Nemes unified the upper and lower cities of ancient Kemet. When he unified the north and the southern Kemet, Kush and Kemet together. That was when we start our own calendar, and this is about 6,263 BC. Okay, so our year this year is going to be 6,264 before Caucasians. Okay, and it will start in the summer later in this year, not this 1st January. Okay, so our own calendar started from that very point when Pharaoh Nemes unified northern and southern Kemet, Kush and Kemet together, and unified the supreme deities of Ra and Amen to become Amen-Ra. That is when our official calendar started. Okay, so our own calendar is older than their calendar by at least more than 4,000 years, give or take. So this 2024 is not African calendar. Okay, we must not be celebrating this nonsense with them. What you are celebrating is the reign of white supremacy over you. The Roman Empire, which is still in force under the shadow of the Catholic Church. Like I've said in my previous videos, the Roman Empire is still here today. They have not faded away. They have morphosized into the Catholic Church. The Pope is still the most powerful person on the earth today. All countries, all the heads of all the countries, they still answer to the Pope. America answers to the Pope. Even the so-called Saudi Arabia, they answer to the Pope. Okay? So these people, they are still here. They have not changed. They are only pretending, hiding in plain sight. They are still doing their evil, still perpetrating evil, still stealing, still committing all sorts of bestiality, evil, child molestation, all sorts of. They're still doing every evil thing they have been doing, stealing natural resources, creating wars, lying, cheating, and stealing. They are still doing all their evils. They have not changed their spot. Okay, they are still here with me and you. So when you're celebrating this thing, you are actually celebrating white supremacy. Okay, this is the truth. They are still celebrating your enslavement to the lies and to the antics of these evil people. Okay, so there is still, the year is not 2024. The earth is not 2024 years old, and this calendar is not our calendar. It's the calendar of the beginning of when the white man started to reign on this planet. That is just the beginning. So this is their own thing. They are celebrating their reign upon this planet, which will soon end very, very quickly, because they have nothing good to offer the planet except destruction, lying, cheating, and stealing. They have nothing to offer. Their nature is the anti-nature. They have negative spirits, unclean spirits, foul spirits. This is what they represent: evil, destruction, negativity. And this is what they are still promoting today. So as a black person that have a consciousness, you should know this, that these people, you and them are not the same thing. We should not be celebrating their culture, promoting their values over our own. We must stand by our own, okay? We should not let them be deceiving us or hoodwinking us, allowing it to spend unnecessary money to support their nonsense, okay? We have our own culture. If you want to celebrate, you celebrate your solar cycle, the rotation of the earth around the sun, 365 days. We already celebrated that. KWAZ, we celebrated to Amen Ra. Okay, you see me celebrating that. I offered my ram as usual. I did my rites. But this is not my new year. My new year does not start today, 1st of January. If you want to talk about new year, we'll be talking about them from spring, beginning of spring, going into summer. That is where you say, yes, this is when a new cycle has started for the earth, bringing forth fresh fruits, bringing things, living in harmony with the cycle, original organic cycle of the earth. Not this one that say that winter is still going on. You're saying it is 1st of January, it's New Year. It is total BS. It does not rhyme with the original rotation, original astrological principles of the earth. It is imbalance. So when you shook yourself into this kind of imbalance, you are confusing yourself because you are not living in harmony with the circles of the earth. And this will naturally throw you off guard. You cannot be able to manifest things when it's time for manifestation. When you begin to manifest things now, it's not in line with the vibrational frequency of the earth. It will not work. You have to wait until everything will be in alignment. That is when you know the right time to plant, the right time to harvest, the right time to turn your things, the right time to start things you're supposed to start. This is why you need to know about astrology. Very, very important. Okay. So January 1st is not a New Year day. For me, it is just another day. We're still having winter. The winter need to run out, then the new cycle will start with spring. This is the time of planting. Okay, the time of tilling the soil.
Okay, I gave it its run. Again, let's try to keep the attachments, the video attachments, let's try to keep it down to maybe like 10 minutes, somewhere around there. 7 to 10 minutes is fine. Let me address something. Let me address Mr. Icon Fire here. Let me say this to Icon Fire, to this comment he made. You're welcome. You ain't got to come back around me. You see, I'm a kind of a man. I understand a part of my manhood, a part of manhood is to understand when another man running his ship, you let him run his fucking ship. You understand? You don't stand no man up questioning him as to why he doing this, and that's some whole shit again. That's what these black folks be doing out here when the cops have them in the head, like, why are you doing me? No, stand up and fight. Push back, do something. Don't come here bitching. Right? This is how I do it. I don't like to hear one mic talk where everyone talking over each other. And it's rude to just jump into a conversation. So you ain't got to come back. That's fine. You can unsubscribe too. That's even better. I ain't really checking. You could carry your ass as far as I'm concerned. I've seen what you've done on other panels too, by the way. You almost caused that brother Pan-African Strikes Back to get his channel struck down. I've seen this shit before. You understand? So you ain't coming here and do that foolishness. As a matter of fact, Ironically enough, a couple of months ago, there was a new listener who was coming around the live streams and dropping comments and stuff, like real good participation, the kind of shit I like to have around here. And because of Icon Fire one evening, the last time he came on the panel, that dude, that dude pissed me off too. And I realized today Buana and them responded to that dude too, so they know what I'm talking about, right? Because I like their comment today, so they must know what I'm talking about. Like, dude, I see what you do. I'm about discipline, Dred. If you a man and you don't have no discipline about you, can stay the fuck away from me. And let me not have to repeat this to no one else out here too. That running on talk, y'all could keep that shit to yourself. I don't run on talk.
I want to speak to that too, Coco. I want to speak to that. We talk all the time about having businesses and respecting businesses and doing black business. This is a part of it, because we will go into another man's shop and we will show him deference and respect. You know why? Because he ain't come from our community. But we feel like we could be as irreverent as we want to be, because the person who business you entering, or who podcast you entering, or who governing over it, we could be as irreverent as we want to be. We don't have to show no manners, no discipline. We don't even have to wipe off our feet. Respect the man's right to have his own channel and create his own rules. Because if you out of home, you would not want me to come in your home telling you how you need to govern yourself in your own house. This is the house that Coco created. Let's respect the man's right to govern his rules the way he wish and run his rules the way he wishes to. You can't go into another man's house and tell him how he should run and govern his house. That is just ridiculous beyond reason. So I'll just leave it there. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, appreciate that, boy. So yeah, let's not me and any one of y'all again have to have that conversation. All right. As far as this conversation here right now, this topic, my boy, our African brother, he took the long way to get through this point, but it's something that we have to understand about ourselves too. Sometimes we might be a little bit too verbose. We might be a little too loud sometimes, etc., etc. We gotta have some patience for ourselves. So we got to give the brother a chance. Maybe he just learned this stuff and he's trying to teach someone else who's uninitiated to this information. But one thing I will say before I throw it to my panelists, one thing I've wanted to ask this type of question on the panel before, and I didn't quite know how to word it, and I think I see an opportunity with this prompt. When we envision the future and envision a future where we're powerful, where we have our own, where we have our own nation states, where we have our own continent again, right? I'm curious, what does that look like to say that we're getting rid of everything that that's been put on our people for however long it's been at that point? Like, how does that look? Do we say that thing walking over there with 4 legs and a tail, do we say, fuck that, we ain't calling that a cat no more, we calling it this shit over here? Like, what does that look like? I'm curious. So you guys on the panel, if you understand what I'm saying, you guys can kind of speak to that too, in addition to this time thing that the guy in the video is talking about. But when we really take over, what does that look like? Do we completely tear the shit down and build it back up again for our own people? Let's start with Black Steel this time. Black Steel, what's it?
So I don't know if we can just rebuild everything from scratch, right? Because the world is so interconnected now. This world is not. It's not even. I would say even historically, Africa was never isolated. Africa still had interaction with the rest of the world outside the continent. So this idea we just got to eliminate everything that we learned from the European or the Arab or the Chinese or whatever, and just go back to just completely isolate. I don't know if that even really exists. I think it's more of like a pipe dream, if you ask me. As far as the video, I mean, I understand what he was saying about. I think it all goes back to how the West how they structure time itself. How we look at the world, how we interact with reality through their lens. So I understand the point he was making. It did say, like you said, he did take a long time to land the plane. He flew around the airport a couple times, but he did get it there. So big up to him. But overall, I would just say, how do we gonna restructure the world? I don't know. I think it's almost absurd to think that we're gonna just completely erase everything and just go back to a perfect, world without African interaction with the rest of the world. I don't think that's really possible. I don't think we should even really strive for that. I think we should take what works for us and our culture and move forward. Like Saint Kofi. Go back and get it, give us stuff we need, move forward. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate that. Black Steel. Only what say you?
I was just looking at Arthur Troy's comment about the calendar. The trouble is I don't know how to what are significant dates, to be honest. I'll say this for my third book, right? Book of Power. If you guys didn't know, I'm an author, right? Hey, so the Book of Power, I actually do have a calendar. Because I actually prefer I think when I was younger, I used to listen to radios. And I know who did it, but anyway, but there was this radio guy. This guy was on the radio, and he was bent on introducing a different calendar because he saw that I think mathematically I think it's 13 months for 28 days each, and then you would just have 5 days left over, if you were to do a calendar like that. And it's just a better lunar oriented mapping, that kind of thing. So I mean, I think that's just one of those ideas as far as we're concerned about what would it be like to readjust everything. The reality is that the way power is going to look one of two ways. At the baseline, it is you taking over your economy. Okay, at the baseline, it is you taking over your economy. On the other line, it is what you're going to do with that economy. And this is what I tell people. It's unless you are actively on the continent, right, or actively engaged with the people actively on the continent, you're not going to be a part of the solution. You know what I mean? And I'm not using that in the sense of that classic adage, if you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem, or something like that. That's not true. But what I'm saying is that whatever Ibrahim Traore wants a Burkina Faso, as long as he survives and he stays in power, that's what's going to happen for Burkina Faso, right? Even the name Burkina Faso, that's the name that's given to it by Thomas Sankara. And the anthem that you were playing the other day, that's the anthem that was designed by Thomas Sankara. Because he was a music composer. So the what it will look like for an African people is really what the people who decide to get into power, that's what it will look like. And I think who said it best? Father of Black history, Carter Woodson, right? Carter G. Woodson, right? Carter G. Woodson said, "Look, I think, matter of fact, Harsh Reality said the same thing, right? But if you were a loser before the revolution, you're going to be a loser after the revolution. If you are not in the critical positions before the revolution, you're not going to be in critical positions after the revolution, because the reality is that the revolutionaries put themselves into the critical positions. They take over the critical positions and they put themselves in the critical positions. And it really depends on what the revolutionaries believe. That's why you want to get into the heads and the minds and heads of the people, of the beliefs of people. Because, let's say it this way: if the Christians, if the revolutionaries are Christian, then chances are you're going to have a Christian state afterward. Why? Because that's what they're going to set up. I'll try to record it all the time. Maybe. But anyway, But anyway, I'm saying that to say, oh yeah, sorry. But as far as the video is concerned, about the guy took a while to land the plane, man. This boy is circling. But yeah, 2024. Everybody and their mother should know that. It used to be said, 2020, like it wasn't 2024, but it used to be like 2024 after the birth of our Lord type shit. You know what I mean? Like, everybody kind of knows that it's a reference to Jesus's birth. Now, some people are a little bit more, esoterically informed, and so they'll say, well, actually, it was 3 years, like Jesus was 3 at that time or some shit, But like it's clearly a reference to Jesus. It's clearly a reference. It's clearly set up by the Roman Empire, and we're clearly in that Western world. We can easily create our own calendars, and in fact, I think the one of the revolutionary groups that everybody respects was the well, you don't really respect it, but the French Revolution. And the French revolutionaries, they created their own calendar, but then they lost the revolution, right? And everything kind of got set back, especially I think with Napoleon, I suppose, right? But that's the whole gist of it, really. That's the whole gist of it. So I'll just say again for Arthur Zor, because I know how to program. What Arthur Zor is talking about in regards to programming, like we could do that, like make an app. But as far as what was the significance of January 6th, I don't know, because like at some point we're gonna start saying it's somebody's birthday, and like who that person's birthday is might not really be that internationally significant. You know what I mean? It'd be like, we'd be like, oh, it's that saxophonist is, backup singer's birthday. You know what I mean? Like, or this guy performed with James Brown on So it's like a lot of these dates are not like, there's not that many significant variants. So that's pretty much. I don't know what else I could say. Oh yeah, as far as what's gonna happen, it depends on what the revolutionaries want to happen. What Ibrahim Traore wants to happen in Burkina Faso is what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And like what I want in Burkina Faso, unless I'm going out there supporting and really, being a significant, person in Burkina Faso, is probably not going to happen. I mean, obviously I could contact this guy and, whatever, and I wouldn't mind, but again, it really comes back to who's putting, who has boots on the ground and and like literal boots, because they're in combat boots, right? Who has combat boots in the ground and who's, who has the ear of the people with the combat boots. And that's what it comes down to. That's it. Thanks.
I appreciate that. I would like when I dream of that future, I would like to think that we'll just get back to our own style of nomenclature and what have you. We'll just get rid of that shit that we've been dealing with them forever. That's my take on it. With that said, let me hear from who was that? It was Oni. Let's welcome in Real Black Gentleman. How are you this week?
I'm good. How about you, Koku?
Good. Did you catch this prompt?
Yeah. I also caught the question that you had asked, like, what would it look like? Like, my response to that would be, well, for starters, like, we have to realize that even let's say 150 years ago, there were Black people, you know what I'm saying, on the homeland who were doing their own thing in their own time. You know what I'm saying? Colonialism was a very uneven process. Let's always keep in mind that there's always survivors and always like people with strong fortitude who resisted, every like frontal assault on, like, what I'm saying, the culture. They may have been subsumed during the post Berlin Conference phase, but even then, you always have a couple people. So the idea that, what I'm saying, that our people haven't had our own sense of time is, I think we have to re-examine that. Our people have calendars. Our people have had our people celebrate days. They know what happens in the year. I mean, when we're talking about like what, I don't think that personally that there will be one calendar. Well, there could be a formalized calendar, which I think will be a good thing, but even within smaller, more regional units, people will celebrate their own holidays and what the people themselves, through their own memories and their own traditions will have. Not every African people will celebrate everything on the same day. I just don't think that you know what I'm saying, that doesn't, you know, some people may have their own holidays on one part in let's say we call the third month, let's say, and someone else might have more holidays in the seventh month, but you know, there are commonalities, and those commonalities can be, you know, sifted out, and you could, you know what I'm saying, part of it has to do with having a calendar recognize it's going to be the first day of the rest of you know what I'm saying, our destiny, kind of a deal. So like it wouldn't matter like if we try to sync up the calendar with this Roman calendar, that doesn't matter. It's just like, yo, this is gonna be day one, and we know what we do on these days, but this day is first day of the year. It doesn't matter that it was April 26th where we decide. I mean, if them Arabs can make up a whole calendar, you know what I'm saying? Black people can. Calendar science ain't nothing. It's not that hard. It just takes a matter of I mean, for example, like the Igbos had like a 4-day week with the you know what I'm saying? Different people have different lengths of week in their month. I mean, these are things that are regional. I've said it before, like, you know, not everyone is necessarily on the same type of time, so to speak, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying, for Black people. Although, once again, I do think that there should be a greater African sense of time, as it were, and I think that would be a good way of reflecting and rebuffing colonial, you know what I'm saying, colonial powers. I mean, if Africans do have a sense of time from one end to the other, like they know what time it is relative to everyone else going on, at least Black people can say, you know what I'm saying, we can say, okay, this is happening, you know what I'm saying, we know what time it is, but we don't have to, how would I say it? We don't have to like superimpose our calendar onto theirs. Now the question about what would it look like for what would Africa look like? Do we have to reverse everything? And once again, like a lot of what the West has is bootleg of us. So when we take back the characteristics of these things, you don't want to necessarily throw it all out. Sometimes you just have to revert things and just retransform things back to that which would be useful for our cultures. It's like you know, I can a lot of things that we might think for granted would be, oh, these white folks made it. Once again, if you dig up in history, it's like steel and iron. You know what I'm saying? Iron and steel was first came out of Africa. I mean, that's basically this hard archaeology that proves that African people were blacksmithing and doing metallurgy in iron well before everyone else in the world. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I mean, that explains, you know, the kind of tools that, you know, it might have taken to make megalithic structures. What is it? I mean, again, like, because it's not so long ago, like I said, like, you know, let's say 1885, we don't have to turn this into 2000 years of you know what I'm saying, we don't have to play that, because like, once again, let's say 1885, so it's only what 40 odd years. Okay, in 140 years from now, you know, it could look real street and real hood for Black people and real prosperous. And we wouldn't know nothing different. Everyone would walk around with you know, with our textile industry popping, you know what I'm saying? Just the whole everything with our threads and our own designs, you know what I'm saying? A lot of that is always underneath. You know what I'm saying? Black people make Black people clothes right now. So it's not too much to just readjust and like invert or obvert things a little bit, just twist it up like a Rubik's cube, and you can get to where you need to be. I'm gonna pass the mic.
Appreciate that, RBG. Juana, you get the last word, I guess.
Yeah, no worries. So for me, I would suggest slowing the discussion down a little bit, slowing it down a little bit, and have the brothers evaluate the world in a very simple way, and look at what we talking about here. So if I am living in a state that is isolated, where I produce everything, I don't necessarily need to work with the outside world for anything. I can govern my people and feed my people within that state, within that sphere. Then I can make up the rules that I wish. I could set it. I could create whatever time, the meaning of what time means. I could set. I could move from the Gregorian calendar to whatever calendar I want. See, the president of North Korea, he could have his time set at King Kim Jong Il's time because his where he is very isolated, very isolated. However, if he uh, um, if he gets food, if he gets supplies, if he gets products from the outside world to come in to sustain whatever economy or society that is running, then he has to work with some level of the global uniformity. And many of the world, much of the world, not everyone, but much of the world follows the Gregorian calendar. So you have to work under the system that you're currently governing in. And it's good to dream, and it's good to speculate, and it's good to turn the world on its head and say, well, we shouldn't look at it like we should look at it like this. But you live in a situation where you have to live with the rest of the world. Why? Because you are interdependent with other people assisting and helping you. You're not isolated from everyone else. So since you're not isolated from everyone else, there has to be a degree of uniformity. Why? Because you're signing contracts to say, I would like these products to arrive on this specific time and date. And if I'm in China or if I'm in England, I would know that I have to have my ship brought to the shores or the ports of your society on this specific date and time. And if you telling me that that time is based on whatever your time perspective is or whatever, it doesn't work like that in the world. They gonna someone gonna reference the contract and say, okay, this is the time, this is the date, here is how it is. We gonna sign off on this contract, and I will have your products here for this specific date and time. That requires a degree of uniformity, and the people who have made it that way had the power to do that. Since we are not there yet, we have to work within the world that we've been existing in until we have galvanized enough power to be able to change how we introduce time systems. And like, even if we move away from the Gregorian calendar, and let's say we embrace, like in Ethiopia, they have a different calendar going. They have a different kind of time calendar going. When they deal with the outside world, though, they still understand that they have to deal with a level of global uniformity. Global uniformity, even though even though within that society they have their own language, their perspective is different. You have to remember, you have to work along with the rest of the world, because you're not living in an isolated society. You're living in an interdependent society. So you depend on other people to come in to assist, feed, and provide for your people. And until you are completely free to operate independently and in of yourself, then what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? You know, I would love the world to be governed in a completely black perspective, but that's really and truly in a real conversation. The world was never completely governed by one group of people or another, because even though the Western world follows the Gregorian calendar, the Chinese follow in another kind of calendar, and their perspective is a little bit different. But when they deal with each other on an interdependent level, then you have to you have to have a degree of uniformity in the world. And I just want for the brothers and sisters to be mindful of that. You're not operating independently and of yourself. You have to exist within the rest of the big global world too, even if you have power. So I would just to tell the brothers to be mindful of that. But I'll leave it there.
Wait, Bono, before you go though, I think Trigger Happy asked an excellent question, because it's a question I was thinking to ask you. He says, why is the assumption that what is being built will be isolated if it can be understood that Ethiopia operates within their concept of an outside concept? Why do we have this immediate assumption? So he goes on to say he's curious. He says, I'm curious to know if the presenter in the video made an isolated argument as well as everyone else here. No, he didn't. I think I think our African brother in the video is breaking it down for those who don't know that we are operating on a timeline that doesn't parallel who we are. And we might not be in that place yet to dictate to the world how the timeline will go, but I think we should be in a place where we can discuss the idea of when we have our shit together, how are we going to do it? What are we going to do within ourselves, and what will we do within communications with the larger world? I think that's what what we should get from this. Go ahead, Juan.
Yes. So my only the issue becomes now, because when he talks about from an African perspective, following the seasons and things of that nature, in regards to time, now how do you couple that with a technological world that we currently exist in? The technological world is a little bit different. I'm not saying it's against, but it's different from operating under the seasonal governances, or following the moon and things of that nature. And even within this video himself, there is some, I'm gonna say it's contradictory, but he has a watch on his hand. So he understands the importance of time within 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour. That's not being restricted from an African perspective, because if you're saying the African perspective is following the seasonal things like that, but you have something on your arm called a watch, and the watches go working from another time reference, completely different time reference from an African time reference. So I would just want him to show me how living from that perspective and what he was suggesting is going to be able to follow fluid in a technological age, or even worse still, information and a technological age, going back and referencing how we would govern the world based on the season and the moon and the sun and all these other kinds of things. I don't know. I just feel like there's gonna be major contradictions that's gonna happen. So someone gonna have to submit to someone else, even in that paradigm. Because I personally believe that if you're living in a global world, you have to be able to make your society fluid with the rest of everyone else. So I'm asking, show me how would that be possible if your governance is seasonal, when the crops grow, when the moon rises, when these kinds of things. I just really would like to know, how is that going to be possible? And break it down for me in a very simple way. And I would yield to that. But I'll stop there.
Yeah, I think that's all a part of the vision of it. I think we don't have to have the answer right now as the question's being asked, but we should be thinking about some things, I think that's all to it. I don't think anyone is saying that, like D Webb said from the Harsh Valley podcast, I don't think anyone is saying, let's change the time that we operate on so that when Monday morning 9 o'clock come, you're not your job. I don't think anyone is suggesting that, but I think we do need to be a people that are thinking about how we go run things when is our turn. When we get
when he mentions the calendar, mentions the calendar, that is referencing time. The calendar is addressing months, periods of time. So it's like, okay, when you say like, are you just want to change the name of it but still keep the 12 months, or are we going to change the meaning of what a year is? What a year is? Will a year from an African perspective now be 13 months or 14 months? Even so we're gonna get away from the Gregorian calendar. Are we gonna just have an African calendar with African names? But what will the meaning of a month be? Is that we see? So that's what I'm asking. Will it be 30 days, or will it be would an African month be 45 days now? That's what I'm asking. So
that's what we have. That's what we have to work out. That's what we have to work out. But one of the fundamental things that Afro-Native World and them is putting forward is the idea that you begin anew, dead set in the middle of winter. When if we look at the world, we look at nature. We are people who come from nature, right? Come from being one with nature. Like rebirth happens like in the spring, right? Renewal happens in the spring. So I think that's really the fundamental thing. So under this white man's time, we're doing things out of whack, right? We're not one with nature anymore, right? I think that's really the fundamental thing. And so after that, after you tackle that, then if you have the power to do it, when we have the power to do it, then you decide how things will run. Will we run on like why do we have to run on a 7-day work week? Because this white boy decided that? Why is it that I think I saw only talking to someone about this somewhat earlier. Like why would we still have like a 5 days of work and 2 days of a weekend? I mean, come on. That's what this man came up with. Why do we do it? We talked about it a long time ago. Why is our school day 9 to 3 in countries where we have the power to determine what works best for our people?
Yeah, just to piggy on that. Even the Europeans. my fault. But no, I was just saying, even Europeans don't do that. For you, like they have like different weeks and all that kind of stuff. My fault.
No, I was just joking. Don't worry about it. Yeah, so I mean that's the thing. So only added another layer of text to it too. Like even they don't follow the same. So why are we doing it? Why are we following and why are we dead set to continue following what this man laid down? You know, that's the issue that I have. Azuli's out there in the chat carrying on. Once again, Anthony McPhail is out there. Peace, Anthony. He says the Igbo calendar starts in spring. You know, there's a lot of comments out here. I don't know if I could catch them all here. So make sure you guys who listen to the playback check out the comment section. Good stuff. It's just kind of I can't get to all of it right now. Is there any last thoughts on this prompt here?
Yes.
If not,
yes. There's a last thought. And if you go in some places of business, right, you will see 4 clocks. You will see a time what gives you a time for London. You will see a time what gives you a time for the United States. You will see a time that gives you a time for China. Okay, so the brother says that the Igbo clock starts in spring. I would really like for some Igbo person to come up with a time in reference to how they relate to it. So you could, make a watch out of it. You know what I mean? So we can purchase it so we could know, okay, so now this is the Igbo year this is the first of the year for Igbo's people. So I would know from an Igbo perspective, this is our year. We need to reflect on the fact that this is the first of the year, why this time of year is important, and how we should proceed from this particular point in time. Because the Chinese may have a watch where they have the Chinese time, the year of the rat, the year of the whatever. I would like for the Igbo or some African person to come up with a time frame of reference and why that would be important to people from that particular time and culture. You know what I mean? I would like to see something like, I don't know. I'll stop there.
I appreciate that, Buana. If anyone's out there who can do what Buana just asked, by all means come up. We'll create a follow-up post and we'll discuss it. Should be topic number 4 tonight. I want to thank everyone who's here, by the way. All of you in the chat, all of you who came up on the panel tonight. Once again, we didn't get any women so far to come up. Ladies, the link is there. I don't stop you from coming up. I think everyone is cordial when women come on the panel. So, it's up to y'all now to take the invite and come on up. Should be topic number 4 says, check this great young Pan-African spiritualist musician out of Guadalupe, Tamu, Mazama. This came with 2 links. Let me grab the first one. So this one takes us to YouTube. Hopefully I don't get a strike for play. Oh no, this takes us to BB Toomey, it looks like. Last time I had a difficult time getting on a BB Toomey, so I don't know if I'll be able to even get on there. That's unfortunate. For some reason, it gives me a problem. Let's see if it works today. Okay. All right, so it looks like it's going to work. It's from YouTube anyway, so I'll play it and then we'll discuss it.
I'm like you, money. Can you hear me now? My enemies are watching mommy, oh. I need faith now. I'm like you, money. I'm a soul from the Congo. When I walk, the world trembles. I'm like you, money. Can you hear me now? I am the return of the queen. Yeah, yeah. Wille, wille. Où c'est différent? Wille, wille. Où c'est différent? Wille, wille. Où c'est différent? Money, oh.
Wele wele ou se di fe, ou soti an majesty, il est fait. Cloche ye nou ye manja pou mande. Kangana nou, se yo ki mene mende. Nou pe pa pe, nou pe pa pe. Qualité pou manifester la paix. Living proof nou se rescapé. Tamou pezi yo sa, ennemi ni vie mani. Nou vini mene chou.
So I'm not going to play the whole thing because of course I'll probably get a strike, but it was 2 links, so that's one. A lot of you in the chat pointing out her relationship to Ama Mazama. That's mother and daughter, if I'm not mistaken. So kudos to that. This next tune I'm actually familiar with from her. There was a time I used to want to do for KWAZ Radio. I used to want to do a music countdown type thing with music from different regions, from the 6 regions. But I don't know, man. These days I haven't had the zeal to really take on that type of thing. But maybe one day. So here comes this other link. I'll play a few seconds of it.
Je suis Congolais, je suis Igbo, je suis Yoruba, Oromila. J'appelle Shango, j'appelle Congo, je suis la fille de Kama. Oh oui, oh oui, oh oui, oh oui, shine. Oh oui, shine, yeah, oh oui. Je suis l'enfant des Orisha, la fille de Batala, je suis la fille de Yamanja. Je suis l'enfant des Orisha, je suis la fille de Oya, je suis l'enfant de Ogu. Orisha, yeah, Orisha, yeah, Orisha, yeah, Orisha, yeah, Orisha, yeah. Orisha, you see, la vida is Orisha, la vida is Orisha. Je suis Congo, je suis Igbo, je suis Yoruba, Oromia. J'appelle Shango, j'appelle Congo, je suis la fille de Kama.
All right. Hopefully, I don't get a strike for playing this sister's music. But it's good stuff. It's good stuff. I forget what I was watching her do an interview on. She was real solid in her interview. Real Black Gentleman, what are your thoughts on what you just saw?
I missed the beginning of it, but I'm just watching this right now. I like it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what to think about it. I mean, I don't speak French, so I don't really know what she's saying. I think she's speaking French, so I don't really know what she's saying because I didn't have any subtitles. I'm just looking and, you know what I'm saying, seeing what's up. Maybe I should probably not the best person to speak. I really wouldn't know what to say, so I'll just pass the mic.
Yeah, just pass the mic, RBG. If you don't catch the prompt, this is not just for RBG. Anyone, if you don't catch the prompt, just say, "Hey, I didn't catch the prompt." I'll move on to the next person. Black Steel, what say you to this?
So, I mean, I enjoyed it. And you know what? I've been really on my Afrobeats stuff right now. Tim stays in heavy rotation in my house. So anything that kind of puts me in that energy, I'm really feeling it. So I enjoyed it. I want to hear more from this artist. Definitely enjoy it. Like I said, I don't speak French, but just the energy it gives off, that's totally my bag. So I'll leave it there. But yeah, I enjoyed it, sister. Hope to see more from her soon.
Yeah, I enjoy the energy too. She might be someone to try to reach out to in the future too. Anytime this and by the way, thank you, Afro Native World, for this prompt. Anytime the music prompt comes up, I'm a little hesitant because of how this shit works with the striking, but that idea with the playlist thing, and I see Afro said something about that too in the chat. That's an idea. It will be a good one, but again, these days I don't have much bandwidth for a whole lot of stuff. So maybe one of you guys out there could do it. It'll be good. Let me hear from Oni on this. Oni, what say you?
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Check out this great young Pan-African spiritualist. I'll say this background, Afro Native World is saying that it's either Guadeloupe or Ivory Coast, but it looking like, looking like it's from Africa or someplace, right? Which is pretty cool, pretty interesting, showing us the world. I was actually thinking about this earlier today, but some of the most somebody, I don't want to say who, but somebody said that the Marxists make some really good propaganda. Okay? And when you think about it, like when you think about Christianity, right? One of the reasons why a lot of us, well, not me, but a lot of us might have been involved in Christianity is because they did music and dance. They the part of their propaganda was a lot of music. It's not so much the book or what's in the book as much as the songs that really grab people. Now, obviously, the beliefs are compatible or likable if you or amiable if you put it a certain way. But my point is that the music is one of them. And then the same when you say, well, what about capitalism? Like, is everybody reading Adam Smith? No. But when you look at the entertainment industry in the capitalist countries, particularly once upon a time, they were very, very pro-America, pro-capital, pro this, pro that, so on and so forth. And then the music that we tend to dislike, when we say we dislike, but we we listen to, like all of it really heavy. So it really did get me thinking that Pan-Africanists, we are slipping on this front. But it might not, and of course, I mean, we are slipping on this front, but there are so many people out there doing that good work. So, and we don't really like give enough credit to that, you know. I kind of wish I was more involved with Pan-African music or Pan-African musicians. I don't know why you're trying to hear me rap again. But but we got brother Arthur Zor. He's a musician, obviously. He did a collab with another Pan-African musician, Asani, the other day. And then of course now you got this sister and you got other people, and you interviewed a few people. So there's definitely like definitely a need to have these songs, have these dances. And I could say that one of the things I liked about like I visited this particular tribe in Africa, or ethnic group in Africa, whatever you want to call them. But went to their village, and yeah, they had their own like dance. They had their own dance, and they had their own drumming circle and all that kind of stuff. And that's really what you want to be doing as a people. That we're not really doing enough of. But that's all I can say. But yeah, as far as this sister's concerned, yeah, I appreciate the sister. And she's wait, how old is she? Before I even give her any comment. And that's all I can say. That's it.
Yeah, this guy here, boy. Anyway, that brings us to that brings us to Buana. Buana, what say you?
Yeah, he says how old she is. She's prison. Just think prison. Anyways, if this is Ama Mazama's daughter, she's a beautiful lady, beautiful young girl. She's probably going to be very grounded in terms of her African worldview, because Ama Mazama is dynamite, and if this is her daughter, you could tell that she is infusing a lot of the things that she probably would have learned from her mother and the people she was around in her music and the artistry. And this is the importance of, and I would say, calling my Haitian Indian brethren, because this is the kinds of people you need to approach. My Haitian Indian brethren need to approach these kinds of people to be at the cusp of making the videos and producing these kinds of videos in along with the movies that he produces. So, because I think is something refreshing to give back to the black world. I think it's a refreshing thing. She say, I'm Congo, I'm Orisha, je suis Congo, je suis Orisha, je m'appelle uh, um, um, she Igbo. She's saying that she's the various different versions of Igbo and the spirit, the Orishas, and I am a part of I am Africa too. You know what I mean? She is fashioning herself with the African world, even though Amma Mazam, I think, is in Philadelphia, so that would probably make her an American. But she is just making a connection back to the continent, because I could tell that this was made in some African place. And even though she's speaking French, all of us could work on trying to get an African language. This she is universalizing and doing her own propaganda in her own way. So I think that this is an important thing to do. It sounds very similar to Afrobeat. Maybe she jumping on the maybe she jumping on the that Afrobeat bandwagon, which is very very popular right now, and it's an important thing to do. But to put an African feature in that, to put our own messages in that, is a beautiful thing to do. And I think that going forward, I think that this is the direction where we going. We becoming universal. I see it. We universalize it, and that's an important thing to do. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, a lot of I could tell like some of this is actually in the Caribbean. Some of this is taped. You could tell is in the like if y'all go Guadeloupe and Saint Martin and uh Saint Lucia and stuff like that, like you would probably think you're on the continent. From what I've seen of the continent. Does anyone have any last thoughts on this prompt here? So I have an option. No, you know what? I have one more prompt, I guess. I always have the possible in hand. We're going to end at 11 tonight, so no extra hour tonight. We will end at 11, but I have this optional prompt. Let's do this last one, which will be Shoot the Breeze topic number 5. That was a good prompt, by the way. to the poster who posted it on the Discord. And if you guys want to hear your topics discussed, you can post those on the Discord as well. There's a few good ones that was posted between like today and yesterday. Those will come up next week. Don't worry about it. So very good conversation there. Let's go to Shooter Breeze topic number 5. Shooter Breeze topic number 5 says Dr. Frances Cress Welsing gives her thoughts on the Pretendians. Is she correct? The interesting thing, I think the first of the year is her birthday. So her birthday just went by as well. She's since passed on like 7 years ago, but it's good that folks still remember her, you know. This prompt comes with a link that takes us to Twitter. So this is a post from Big Malcolm X Play Cousin, another Omowale. I don't know if that's who. No. Anthony was talking about Omowale Africa, so it wasn't him. He says, he quotes, "My grandmother said we have some Indian in us," end of quote. See, black people started saying Indian because it had become embarrassing to know that the slave master had essayed somebody because they have long, straight hair. Quote, "I'm part Indian." No, you were essayed, says Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Let's watch it in her own words.
No black people filling out the census. Let's see. I think I got some French. The white people just check. White. Yeah. And they finished that. And I think I got, well, let's see. Now, grandmother said Irish. See, black people started saying Indian because it was embarrassing to know that the slave master had raped somebody. And so they got long, straight hair. So the black, no, I'm part Indian. No, you were raped. No black people filling out the census. Let's see. I think I got some French. The white people just check. White. Yeah. And they finished that. And I think I got, well, let's see. Now, grandmother said Irish. See, black people started saying Indian because it was embarrassing to know that the slave master had raped somebody. And so they got long, straight hair. So the black, no, I'm part Indian. No, you were raped. No black people filling out.
Your mic is muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I played it twice so everyone could catch it. Only in the chat says, "Oh, damn, I am that guy." Yeah, you're that guy who's gonna go right now. What say you, Oni?
All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, no, sorry. Somebody was having this little debate on, about like these Pretendians. I don't know how, but they just jumped on something I wrote on Twitter for some reason. I was just making a joke about raccoons, and they just jumped at me. But somebody was making an argument. They were like, "Look, if you were to do a genetic study, average genotype of African Americans, they were like it would be 78% African, 20% European, and like 0.3% Native American or something like that. Because that was the average, genotype. And so, what she's saying is essentially, yeah, if there is any sort of non-African ancestry on average, it's going to be a white person's DNA. Now, that's not to say that there were no Native Americans, who procreated with African people. That's not to say there were no, that's not to say there's no Africans who didn't have any procreation with Europeans. It's just to say that on average, considering the number of people that think that they're Native American, it's just kind of absurd. And again, it's really a product of the public school system, one, and two, there's another really important thing, a product of All right. Well, I'll say it this way: it's a product of one. We're having these conversations as children. Okay. I don't know if we realize this, but a lot of the conversations that we have, or a lot of the knowledge that we're running off of, is the knowledge that we picked up as children. You know, in fact, a lot of people do not educate themselves after school, and worse off, they do not educate, like they don't educate themselves outside of school, right? So after your childhood, you know, you kind of stop reading, you kind of stop learning. And so a lot of it might be, hey, I asked my grandmother when I was 13, you know, why is it that I have these sort of features? And, you know, yeah, your grandmother's not going to say, oh, well, it's because you're part white or some shit, right? You know, if that's the reasoning that, you know, might be there, right? But she's going to say, she's going to just make up, oh, well, you know, you heard of the Indians, right? You know, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. And I say this because the reason why I'm so aggressive to this is because there's two things to it, right? When I was younger, my cousin, who's a Jamaican, okay, believed that because her hair texture was different from my hair texture. This is my cousin, okay? Because her hair texture was different from my hair texture, she was part Native American, okay? And of course, I'm like, first off, that doesn't make any sense because, you know, obviously your mother is my father's brother, my father's sister, sorry. But she's like, okay, well, my father's side or some shit, right? The reason why her hair was straight was because she was getting hair relaxers. But the thing about us, like going through this American public school system thing, is that you're really not taught to be you or to think like you, okay? And so even my own personal experience, because I used to be made fun of in school because, you know, I comb my hair in the morning, and, you know, and at school they're like, damn, you got like, you ain't comb your hair, you ain't comb your hair. So I stopped combing my hair for a couple of weeks, and it just twisted automatically, you know, to the point where, you know, that's what freeform locks are, right? And the thing is, a lot of black people don't even know how freeform locks happen. So, like, if you guys see my hair right now, it does freeform locks. Nobody's locking it, nobody's twisting it, but we don't know because we're mostly told to either comb it or cut it, right? So just the way that our hair grows out of our head, we will not know in the Western world because, one, we don't let it grow naturally, right? We always either twist it, comb it, cut it, right? But then two, we go to school systems that do not teach us about our own hair. And so my cousin, Jamaican girl, right, literally thought that her hair was straight, even though she was actively getting it processed every once in a while because that was just considered hair care. I'm saying that to say that, yeah, a lot of people, a lot of us do not get knowledge after school. And then worse, I'll put it this way, because I have to finish because we know we're on limited time. And worse, we we don't. All right, well, I forgot it. So that's right. It. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Real Black Gentleman, what say you?
I think in the main part she is right. Because when you look at it, when you think about it, I mean, a lot of them Indians came across from Asia. I mean, frankly, a lot of them Indians is more closely related to Asian and white people than, you know what I'm saying, they would give themselves credit for. I mean, they got straight here, just like, you know what I'm saying, them motherfuckers in Japan and in China, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. It's like, you know, so like, although there are, I mean, it's complicated because, again, there are some African people who did come over here. So like, you know what I'm saying, the whole the ethnicities in the you know what I'm saying, how peoples are in the so-called new world, even like 1,000 years ago, is an interesting thing that, you know, still needs to be, you know, researched and rediscovered, you know what I'm saying, because there are a lot of hard black people out here 1,000 years ago doing what they needed to do. You know what I'm saying, there's too much there where peoples have been coming over here. So like part of that whole black Indian thing is true, just a touch, but I mean, it's hard to map out. I would love to see a map of where the Black Indians were, because I know that they weren't everywhere. And then when we're talking about North America, that's really you know what I'm saying? You got to really think about it. You could put flesh on them bones, but like what she's saying, what Press is saying, yeah, I mean, let's face it. When we talk about generations, you know what I'm saying? Like, we aren't all born at the same time. There's a whole bunch of like age discrepancies. I mean, when we're discussing the issue at hand, you got to think about what's going on here. When these things are taking place, genetics is incredibly powerful, but you gotta have genealogy. You know what I'm saying? As a structure, those two things, when used in tandem, which is what I think that if we can get good at that, I mean, you gotta have. It's one thing to say, okay, we have an idea of where the peoples that your stuff comes from, where they are now, what they call themselves. The problem is people move around or not. You know, you know what I'm saying? And it is what it is. For me to try to describe this takes a lot of time. You know what I'm saying? It's like everyone's parents aren't the same age, and over a period of time, there can be a significant gap in how, like, you know, what your generations are. You may have, you know, by the 1500s, you know, you don't have the same number of generations literally between your father and your mother's direct line, just because people have different ages. You know what I'm saying? That's why when you say, when we're talking about genetics, you do need a hard genealogical structure. Although, again, that's what slavery took away from Black people, is our hard hereditary sciences that we had back on the continent. Because rest assured, we had hereditary sciences. We knew who peoples were and where people come from. We knew him and his people. We knew all of that. That was a given. You gotta believe that we knew well more about who we were back then than we do now. Because Lord knows we find ourselves, frankly, I mean, it becomes incestuous, because we don't really know who we are in the hard family tree of a lot of this. But I'm gonna pass the mic.
Appreciate that, RBG. Buano, what say you?
Yeah, for me, this is a bit of a difficult question, because when someone says to me that a Black person says to me they have Indian in their family, I have to figure out which Indian you mean, and where you are from. If you are a Jamaican person who says, I have Indian in my family, then I'm thinking to myself, okay, East Indians, people from India did actually come to Jamaica and live among the Black population of Jamaica and integrate themselves with many Black people in Jamaica. So credibly, you could make that claim. And I believe you. I said, okay, you have Indian in your family, no problem. If you from Guyana, if you from Trinidad and Tobago, I'll even believe you. But you can't tell me that I'm Indian and I'm from Port-au-Prince. I'm not gonna believe you. I'm not gonna believe you. Can even tell me you from Dominica. You can be from any Caribbean island, but don't tell me you from Haiti and say you Indian. I'm not gonna believe you. And also too, let me say this too. When you say that I am part Indian, what do you mean by that? Are you suggesting to me, well, I have ancestry with the so-called original inhabitants of of the Americas? I don't know. That is a bit of a reach for me, because the books say that many of the Indians were slaughtered. Many of the Indians were slaughtered. But I'm knowing that there were Indians like the Tainos and shit like that, who exist on some Caribbean islands. It wasn't completely decimated. And also in places like Venezuela and in different parts of South America. So these are credible claims, because they would have integrated with the indigenous, with the Black population, who would have came there after the Spaniards and the English and the French would have brought them into these areas. So it becomes like a very, very mixed kind of conversation, because when you look at the histories of these people in the North America, it takes on a different kind of meaning. Takes on a different kind of meaning, because now you're talking about the Indian population who was there when Christopher Columbus came there, and based on off of where your family history was at the time or migrated to, that's a valid claim. But now we living in the days of information, and you could always take your DNA and discover what your family histories and backgrounds are in terms of the DNA. What you do with that is up to you. I look at the majority of my blood sampling, and if the majority of my blood sampling is 80 to 90% African, I arrive at that because I understand within that history you have a small percentage of rape and harm involved, because how we got to this part of the world. So if it's 10%, it's 10% that I don't acknowledge. If it's 15%, it's 15% that I don't acknowledge. I do acknowledge the 80 to 85% of black blood that's coursing through my veins. If if a small percentage of that is Indian, I have to ask myself, well, how did this percentage get in there? And when I hear the Pretendians talk, or the Indians talk, they never talk about Indian slavery that existed in the Americas, because Indian slavery was real in the South in North America. They don't talk about that. I don't know why. I really don't know why. But for me, I am proud to make the claim of being an African person and having African status, and there's no shame in that. I have my family heritage and bloodline has proven that we are the fittest of the fittest people on this planet to have survived transatlantic slave trade, which is a monumental task, where many human beings was left at the bottom of the ocean, and millions more was left on the coast of Africa because they didn't make it. My family bloodline was strong enough to make it over here. That is a task in itself. That means my family bloodline was the fittest of the fittest. Now, whoever, whatever happened during my time here, have no relevance to the fact that my family bloodline was able to survive that horrific experience and is still continuing up to this day. This is what I want to associate myself and my history to, as opposed to saying I'm part Indian, to disassociate myself from the African world because they feel like it's some shameful status that I. Even though the blacks in this part of the world went from slave status to the top of the hill, to the top of the mountain, the accomplishments that a black man has made in the so-called Western world, on top of the oppression that he had to endure, it continues to expose the rest of the world that we are the best of the best in human history. Why would people want to dissociate themselves from that and talk to the little small, little insignificant percentage engine they have in their family? I don't know. I only could leave it to ignorance. But I'll stop there. It's been wonderful, Kofi, you having me and inviting me on your show to give my sentiments and feelings. And I appreciate all the brothers and all the opinions you all had tonight. And I'll just leave it there.
Appreciate that, Buana. By the way, when Buana says the Tainos and them weren't all wiped out in the Caribbean, that's true. The Caribs were still around. In fact, if you want to, we were talking about music earlier. If you want some great reggae music, there's what's that group we get called again? The Kalingo Indians, I think is the name. There's a brother named Nazio Fontaine. If you look at Nazio Fontaine, you could tell he came from like the Taino Indians. Let me find an image for you here. You could tell. And again, listen.
I think it's pronounced
name,
Colorado. I think it's Colorado. I think it's pronounced Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado. Yeah, Colorado. That's right. This is Nazio Fontaine. Am I sharing this? This is Nazio Fontaine. You could tell he's an African, but he has that Taino admixture to him. But absolutely, if you're not familiar with his music, I want to say he's the closest thing to Bob Marley. With all due respect to Ziggy and them, he's the closest in terms of sound, in terms of musical structure and stuff like that. With all of that said, last but not least. Let's hear from Black Steel.
So I'm gonna say this, not talking about the genetics of everything. I agree with Dr. Wilson, and what she's really touching on is, to me, the low racial esteem that African people, at least in the Americas, have, because this is an anti-black society. We live in a white-dominated society where blackness is seen as inherently bad. So when you're stuck in a world like that, you internalize those negative thoughts and feelings about blackness. So about African people, you look at the television and you see nothing but, you see the people starving, you see war, you see all these. You don't want to be associated with that. So people create these narratives. They create this mythology. Oh, I'm not African. I'm a Cherokee Indian. I'm a this. I'm a that. You walk around with feathers in your hair, and these people didn't even wear feathers. You don't speak the language. You don't know anything about the customs. But you rather pretend. You rather live in a world of make believe, because you hate Africa so much because of what you've been taught. So you come up with that, you say you have Indian in your family. You don't want to acknowledge the fact that your great granddaddy was a slave master and he messed with your great grandmama. There was nothing you could do about it. It just, and again, I think we always talk about people having a victim mentality. There's nothing wrong with the fact that you're a victim, that something happened to your people. There's no shame in that your ancestors were enslaved. The shame should be people who enslave them. But yeah, we've taken this narrative about there's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with being who we are. So then we try to escape it. So now we have, first with the Hebrew Israelites, with the Hebrews, then Native Americans. Each is in America. Mississippi is really the Nile River, and then we're aliens from another planet. And it's just you laugh at it because it's funny, but at the same time it's sad, because you see the lengths people will go to deny where they're from, or deny we're the Asiatic black man. What's wrong with Africa? There's nothing wrong with being Africa. Africans have endured things that have driven other people to extinction. I listened to another stream today. We're talking about colonization and slavery. So Africa was colonized, in towards the end of the 19th century, right? And that's not. I mean, in the big history, that's not really that long. Because you can look at someplace like Ireland that was colonized by the British in the 1290s. We're talking about during the reign of Edward I, King Longshanks, and they've been under oppression of the British since then. So African people have put up the strongest resistance. We've been colonized the least, but yeah, you have African people who want to escape and pretend to be the people who've been dominated the most. Europeans came and took over 2 continents from the Native American people, 2, North and South America, and put them on reservations. You took 90% of their land, exterminated most of them through your diseases and warfare, put them on the worst land possible, and then you got black people say, I want to be like them. What the fuck? But you call them black people colonized. Black people losers. We're the ones who every resistance movement in this planet has modeled themselves after our struggle. I think we often forget sometimes that, what was his name from the Vietnamese? Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh was in the UNIA. He was a follower of Garvey. He took that shit that Garvey taught black people and took it to Vietnam. So why are we trying to model ourselves on the people who are least able to withstand white domination? They should be like us. So yeah, this whole make-believe stuff it's funny. We can laugh at it, and I'm gonna continue to laugh at it. I don't give a fuck what nobody's saying. It's hilarious to me. I can see you at the comic book convention dressed up like a Vulcan and shit, like you a Klingon, whatever. That's fine, whatever. It's cool. But ultimately, it's comes from low racial esteem, and you got to deal with that. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Coco, before we go, I wanna answer somebody before we go. Just something for him to chew on, because he say that if, how we the best of the best and we are at the bottom. I want to answer that. And the Haitian Indian know what I'm talking about. They say that Haitian slavery. I want to answer that. They say that when slaves were imported to Haiti, the timeline was 7 years. After 7 years, they had to get a crop of fresh slaves from Africa because of the harsh environment of slavery in Haiti. This Haitian Indian talking right now as a survivor, because the chances of you being able to type right now from New York City, the probability that is almost zero. So the fact that your ancestors was able to endure that experience and have a man like you to sit up and talk about how you at the bottom right now is really ridiculous. I hope some one of these days though you get some knowledge, brother. You know, I get none but love for you, bro. But you're lost in the sauce, bro. You're really lost in the sauce. Just the mere fact that you even could read in 21st century, and the fact that you still exist, the probability of that is very, very minimal. Go read your own history, brother. Take some time to do that. One day. I'll leave it there. Y'all brothers have a great week.
Any last thoughts on this?
I'm just gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this really quickly. No one has resisted white domination the way Africans have. No one has. The Haitian Revolution was something that never succeeded in history. There was never a situation where the slaves overthrew the masters and formed their own nation. Okay, we know we talk about Spartacus. Spartacus got crucified. All right, all his Spartacus followers died and got crucified. So no other enslaved, oppressed people were able to overcome their oppressors. African people were fighting back on the slave ships. They, even at their very worst, naked, chained up, they were still fighting back. That African fighting spirit has never gone anywhere. So I think that we really have to understand that African people have never been docile in this system. You know, just the other day, I was, it was Christmas the other day. I read about the Christmas rebellion in Jamaica. You know, we talk about Paul Bogle. We talk about in Guadalupe, all the revolts and the uprisings that were done by African people. The very first, just for example, the very first settlement that was, the Spanish tried to settle in South Carolina in 1526, before St. Augustine, before Jamestown. What happened? The Africans overthrew the Spanish and drove them out. So there's too much history behind this to even take these claims seriously. Not to say there's not going to be no setbacks, there's not going to be no losses, but the struggle continues, and we will win. You have to have a revolutionary optimism. I believe we can overcome. I know we will overcome. It's only a matter of time. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate it. Let's get into some shout outs before we go. Let's start off with Oni. Oni, you want to shout anything out this week?
Nah. Shout out to you. Shout out to the new year. Shout out to the fam. Shout out to everybody on the panel, including Black Steel. No, I'm joking. Black Steel. I just messed with Black Steel.
I love you too, nigga.
You said what? I didn't hear what you said, but
I said love you too, bro. No homo.
Pause. Whoa. Yo, we leaving that in 2023, my guy. But not even my guy. That's man, American Lego. All right. But yeah. So that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna do some Nearly Fuller. I'm trying to write this book and I'm taking too long, so I'm just gonna do some old bullshit, while time passes. Other than that, everything's cool. Although I really do want to know whose man's this. That's about it though.
Appreciate that, Oni. Black Steel, want to shout anything out this week?
Today is January 6th. It's the white man's Juneteenth. Just gonna shout out that black security guard who shot that white woman trying to break through the Capitol building. Shout out to him. Peace and blessings upon him. But yeah, just Just remember that, a lot of white people was just shocked. How dare he kill her? He murderer, whatever. You know what? Stupid. You make stupid choices, man. You get stupid rewards. So, but yeah, that's the one thing I want to shout out for White Man's Juneteenth. Yeah.
Yeah, Janeteenth.
Yeah.
Real Black Gentleman, want to shout anything out this week? Okay, I guess Real Black Gentleman is not.
No, I'm here. I just going to give a shout out to those, you know what I'm saying, who's making leaps and bounds. And
real black, you high. You sound like you high, bro.
Oh man, did y'all see what happened out in Utah with that dude who like leapt at the courthouse? Did I miss that? Did y'all talk about that?
No, we didn't talk about it. But that
was my. Yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to Black Genetics. You know what I'm saying? Our people's cleared the monitor. Look. I'm gonna give a shout out to Black Genetics.
Yeah, he dropped in on that white woman judge like it was a game of Fortnite, man. He was over that thing and putting blows on that bitch too. And they was trying to punch him in his back and all that shit, man. He didn't give a shit about that. He was focused on that woman, man. I'll repost the video on the community tab. Last but not least, Buan, you want to shout anything out this week?
No, shout out. No, I don't want to shout out anybody. I want to challenge the brothers and sisters under the sound of my voice. This is a year of power. This is a year of power for us. Whatever plans that you have, for this particular year, go after it. Whatever ideas that you thought about doing that you've been hesitant on, go after it. This is a year of power for us. Let's try to see if we can live our dreams in real life, not in speculation. So I would suggest the brothers, them, to challenge the sisters as well, to challenge them to go after whatever idea that you may have had in your head and you haven't really manifested yet. Have the tenacity and go after it in 2024. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate all of you who contributed to the show tonight. You know what? On our way out of here, let's do this. On our way out of here, let me hit you with this.
African spirits looking over high. Oh, my African spirits, guide and protect I. Oh, my African spirits, please, my African spirits, take your guide and protect I. Take your protect I. I and I forefathers, I and I arise.
I and I arise. Peace. See y'all next week, man. Y'all take care.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.